Yeah, I sort of thought beforehand that it's going to be confusing if the two big bad guys have the same voice, but they had sort of the black speech. He was just
Yeah, exactly.
doing that, and it's not like.
Yeah, and again,
Can you do that sound effect again, please?
Yes.
Sounds like Dothraki.
Welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave, the one podcast to rule them all. I'm Vikram. I go by as Fortytwo on the forums, and this week we are going to review Peter Jackson's Smaug, the Desolation of Hobbit. Oh, never mind. Oh, sorry, it's Hobbit, Desolation of Benedict Cumberdragon. Nope, that's wrong also. But anyways, joining me for this podcast are Brett.
Hello.
Mandibly.
Hey, everybody.
Peter.
Hey.
Tanya.
Hi.
Dina.
Do you want to ask people what their forum names are?
So Brett goes by as White Raven on the forums, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm so glad his first post on the forums was in the VOK subforum. So that's an honor.
That's awesome.
One of us. Oh, you didn't introduce me.
Oh yeah, and Julia.
Yes, I'm no true lady on the forums.
Hey,
Oh, and Tanya is Sillins?
Yeah.
Silence? No.
Just
that's
a
not-
weird way to spell silence. So.
Oh, silence. Okay.
Oh.
So yeah,
That's how
welcome.
Shakespeare spells silence, if anyone cares. Probably not.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no, I
cool.
care. That's such a cool reference.
Yeah, and no one ever gets it, but that's okay.
Well, now we will.
Yeah. It's not okay, because that's a very cool reference, so we should all get it.
It is. Thank you.
So yeah, everyone, Happy New Year to all the listeners and returning host as well. So did you guys have a good 2013?
I think becoming part of this podcast was one of my highlights.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's terrible.
No, it happened. You heard of I had a year beset by horrible postpartum depression. So
Oh.
anything that drags me out of my own head is a big plus.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
in that case, happy to help.
Well, you also got Hannibal this year, right?
Oh yeah, I caught the Hannibal virus, and I have my own podcast about Hannibal. But enough about me. I know other people did things.
Yeah, Lee went to Russia, right? Is that
Yeah.
the big highlight of this year for you?
I would say that it was, and now I am back, which is also very nice. Yeah, no, and I've also, of course, I had our fantastic Princess and the Queen episode, the founding of VOK, back in the summer when I made like every episode. That was fun.
So let's see. So let's get started then. How do you guys feel about the movie? What rating would you give, Brett?
I think I'd give it a 4. I know it's probably not the same as most people, but I enjoyed it.
Great. Tanya?
Well, I read the book and I love it, and so because of that, I would have to give it a 2 out of 5. It would be more if I hadn't read the book, I guess, because it's a good movie. But
Oh, dude.
I really like the book.
Julia, how about you?
I would give it a 4 because I've never read any of the books, and I really enjoyed the world building that they did. I thought the performances were all really good, and it was just a good time. The 3 hours just flew by.
Oh, that reminds me, I didn't do the spoiler warning. We'll only be discussing the first and the second movie. We won't go over the parts that haven't happened in the movie. We'll only try speculate, I guess. And we'll also leave we might discuss the bigger picture, where do the elves come from and things like that. But apart from that, try not spoil Lord of the Rings too. No, that's too hard to do. I think we can't help but spoil Lord of the Rings. So
The book's been out for 75 years or something.
Yeah, well, and also this is the prequel, so it's like everyone should know roughly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It was such a phenomenon. It was inescapable. It's like if you don't know the rough plot of Lord of the Rings, I'm sorry, you're just out of luck.
spoiler alert, the ring is destroyed.
Shit. Okay.
Didn't see that coming,
this
right?
is for after show, but I you can edit this out, Vic. I'd really like to discuss if we have time. So do you think now the Red Wedding is so part of cultural currency that it's basically spoiled?
I don't know.
Anyway, back to the main podcast. Sorry. I just found it quite interesting.
So,
Oh.
Bina, how would you rate and review this movie?
Everything Tanya said. I love the books, hence doing the big Lord of the Rings reread. And certain parts of the movie work really well, but I would give it a 2 at a stretch because I think fundamentally the movie is broken and doesn't work, even as pure entertainment. So, but I'm really pleased there are people who like it on the podcast, so it's balanced.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay. How about you, Peter?
I'm going to give it a 2 as well. Mostly just really disappointed with it. I mean, I guess I bought into the hype a little too much beforehand, and it just weren't many satisfying moments in the movie, really. It just felt even more padded than the first one. And I mean, if you're going to make 3 movies, they really all need to be 3 hours long. I was also bored during a lot of the scenes.
So, Mandovi, you're going to be the deciding vote. We
Am I?
have 3 against and, 2 for. So, which side are you?
All right. Well, my feelings are sort of mixed. As an adaptation, I often don't really like it. I think that they make a lot of choices that we'll discuss that change things for no real reason. And I guess if I could, in a perfect world, I would much rather watch 2 3 or 4 hour movies than 3 3-hour movies. But I will say, when I went to watch it, I was entertained the whole time. I'd seen American Hustle the day before, and I sat through that and I was so bored, and it wasn't as long.
Blasphemy!
No, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a good movie, but no spoilers. Despite the great performances and everything, I was just not that into it. And then I was watching The Hobbit, and yeah, it's long and ridiculous, but I was also I was paying attention the whole movie, and I wasn't twitching. I wasn't getting ready to stand up. I wasn't looking for more popcorn. I was actually really into it. So I'm gonna give it a 4 because for whatever reason, it's still a movie. All of those Peter Jackson movies, I still kind of can't help but enjoy them.
I read the books too, and at starting after the first movie, I did feel a bit odd about how the movies are turning out versus the books, because the books were all very kiddish and everything. But I really enjoyed this one. I would say I was going to give it 4 out of 5, but then I listened to Tolkien's Professor Sting on it, and I would give it a 5 out of 5 after that.
Really?
Because all the things that. Yeah, I mean, it turns out that, Tolkien wasn't happy with The Hobbit. He kept trying to revise it. He didn't like the childish tone of the books. He liked the more serious one, so he actually attempted rewriting The Hobbit. He wrote 2 chapters, sent it to his friend, and his friend was like, this isn't The Hobbit, this is kind of, something else. And so we all go after how, Lucas for editing the movies, right? Tolkien was also like that. He kept adding appendices, trying to revise things. So Peter Jackson followed Tolkien's vision truly,
But
that doesn't make it better.
Yeah, 2 wrongs right.
It's just a lot of minor details that Peter Jackson has put in that on a bigger picture, as a bigger picture, he did a really good job. He did a very thorough job, I thought. But yeah, let's discuss it.
Just know, and I just want you to make sure I have a 5-minute rant space somewhere towards the end of this podcast to address all the issues that you...
Yeah. So structure-wise, we divided the movie into 6 parts, and we'll kind of narrate each section and then discuss stuff that happens up to that section a bit. Start things off. Bina, would you like to read the first section?
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry to call on you. If you don't have it open,
That's okay. Before I descend into total drunkenness.
You have such a lovely voice, right? I mean, I couldn't think of anybody better to start things off with.
Thank you. Okay. A year ago, Gandalf met Thorin Oakenshield at the Prancing Pony Inn in Bree. He urged Thorin to take back Erebor, his ancestral kingdom. He persuaded Thorin to obtain the Arkenstone to unite the dwarves, and suggests that a stealthy burglar may be needed to steal the jewel back from Smaug. A year later, fleeing from Azog, the Defilers, Wargs and Orcs, the hobbits take refuge with Beorn, the shapeshifter, in his home. With Beorn's protection and ponies, the dwarves make it to Mirkwood. Gandalf receives a telepathic message from Galadriel. She asks him to investigate the tombs of the Nazgul. Gandalf leaves the company, as he typically does at times of urgency. He advises them to follow the elven path through Mirkwood and to wait for him before entering the Lonely Mountain. The necromancer commands Azog to return to Dol Guldur. So Azog leaves the hunt for the dwarves to his son Bolg. Is that really what his son's called? That's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's in the book.
Fortunate school year, wasn't it?
What do you guys think about the prologue? I thought it was underwhelming as fuck. I mean, usually they start them out with this sort of James Bond action sequence openings, but here it was just Gandalf and Thorin sitting in a pub, basically, and the most exciting thing that happened was these two, like, vaguely thuggish-looking dudes walked out, and that was it.
I was quite surprised they had a prologue at all.
Yeah, so was I.
Was too.
Even in James Bond, he sits down and looks at all the guys in the room when he gets there, so it's kind of like James Bond.
Yeah, but he didn't fly like a fighter jet or anything.
Yeah, it felt like something they tacked on very recently. It didn't happen during the first phase of the shooting or something, right?
It suggests to me that they previewed the movie, that they got some notes back from test audiences saying, are you going to really start in media res? So they hastily put that on. I mean, it was good because I walked into the movie a little bit late, so it meant I didn't miss out on any of the action. But yeah, what was that doing there?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of puts the movie and kind of describes what the context of all of this, right? Like Gandalf's thing about trying to take back Erebor, trying to kill the dragon, trying to reunite the dwarves again, and then the Arkenstone and the burglary part. A lot of emphasis on the burglary part, I thought. That entire scene was just to set up that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it was just they were sitting in a pub talking. I mean, show, don't tell. That was.
Well, we did see it. They showed us two people sitting in a pub talking. I, for one, appreciated it because I'm having a very hard time, as someone who hasn't read the books, following the whole what the heck is Gandalf up to and why did he get all these people together. And so I guess I just appreciated getting that little bit of backstory. And I love Thorin. He's so wonderfully flawed, and I don't mind seeing more of him. Ever.
I actually thought that was, I think, Julie, I think you're onto something. I think part of the point of that scene was to help make it clear how far Thorin starts to fall after this. Because, like, Thorin in that scene and Thorin in the first movie is a different man than he is the closer he gets to the mountain. Because the curse of the dwarves is this, like, uncontrollable greed. And Thorin's no stranger to that. That's why, like, a lot of people were commenting on the forums that he's like such a dick, and I kept wanting to make the point, though I thought I'd save it for this, that he's not my favorite person, but he's not actually a bad guy. What's happening is that he's losing it.
Sort of wrap up that prologue. I think it is very important, especially in a series where good versus evil is just, it's like pure good versus pure evil. I'm appreciating these shades of gray. Again, Thorin's not a bad guy, but the sheer stress of what they're going through is wearing him down, much as it did to Frodo, having to basically be in the presence of the ultimate evil day in and day out in the shape of the One Ring.
Yeah, I was listening to Tolkien Professor. Thanks to Shane for suggesting that. And Professor points out that there are parallels between the ring and the Arkenstone, kind of led to the gold sickness kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that they do in the prologue is they explain their plan, which in the book they didn't really have much of a plan at all. They were just going to go, and the dragon wasn't there, but in this they explain that he's going to take the Arkenstone and unite the dwarves with it, and that's why they need a burglar.
Right.
But of course, but the book is just a merry adventure for some loot. That deeper meaning of getting back a kingdom came later with the revisions, as Vic hinted at. So yeah.
Yeah, in the book, Arkenstone wasn't that emphasized, and they expected Frodo to steal the treasure, and Bilbo said, you should have brought 100 burglars to steal all this treasure. I can't smuggle all of that out.
Sorry, who's that Tolkien professor? Is there anyone who has an actual name?
Podcast.
It's a blog / podcast kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Do we know who's behind it? Okay. Because if it's secretly Stephen Colbert, I would love that, because he's a real Tolkien expert in his personal life.
Did you guys catch
I did. As I saw him in Lake Town.
Right. It took me twice. I watched it the second time, and that's when I thought, oh, that's Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Colbert actually called out the Tolkien professor for not putting out podcast episodes fast enough on his show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about Bjorn a little bit. That was just the prologue.
Oh yeah, we completely forgot about him.
So I think Bjorn's bear form looked really cool, but it was just kind of what I talked about earlier, that it didn't really have any satisfying moments. I mean, we didn't see Bjorn fuck any orcs up or like kill any of them. He just sort of like growled and paced back and forth on the hill there and didn't do anything. That was really disappointing.
That wasn't actually my problem with that scene. For me, that was one of these, like, it sort of sums up one of the things that often bothers me in the Hobbit movies, which is that, like, they made a lot of changes to Bjorn, to the scene, to all that stuff, and they made them for no cinematic reason. Like, people can complain about the barrel scene all they want later on, but that was a lot of fun. And I don't care if there wasn't orcs chasing them in the book, because it was cool to watch. But if you're going to, like, tweak the backstory, the character, the inherent goofiness, if you're going to change, like, every aspect of it and not give me anything better than the original, like, I'm going to be, or at least more cinematic than the original, I'm going to be really disappointed.
They really changed the character. They just added that sort of slavery bit into that his people were sort of decimated.
His people were driven out of the mountain, but like there are a million people like that in movies. Like, I kind of prefer him being a grump who doesn't like dwarves. I like they sort of have to trick him. I like that he threatens them. Like, those are things that are more interesting to me than just having some dude be like, well, I don't like you and I'm scary and maybe I'm going to kill you. Except, no, don't worry about it. Like, I'm actually cool.
Yeah, they totally took his balls off, didn't they? I mean, he lost all his teeth. It's much more interesting. There's much more peril if someone's a bit more spiky. And this was definitely kind of, not dumbed down is the wrong word, but softened in some way.
It was change for change's sake, and I don't like that.
I think maybe that they might be trying too hard to go for this not just being a tale of an adventure, but trying to emphasize the looming threat of Sauron and setting up more of the good versus evil battle. That's how I kind of read it. That they were trying to show people being forced into choosing sides already.
They have 3 films of 3 hours in length. They can do that in Lake Town. They can do that in other places.
Yeah.
They don't have to shove that in the Beorn chapter.
Sorry.
He didn't kill any orcs this time, but I mean, in the book, in the night he kills an orc and a warg and tortures them and gets information from them, and in the morning he shows Bilbo the head of a goblin he killed and the hide of a warg. I mean, that would have been cool. I mean, again, show, don't tell. He was like, yeah, I don't like dwarves, but I hate orcs. I mean, you can do that by having him kill orcs and skin a warg rather than just having him tell it to us.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, it's not like they're afraid of showing violence in these movies.
Yeah, they simultaneously stripped out the, like, danger and darkness of Bjorn and the goofiness of that scene.
Yeah,
I disagree.
He's not the same characters in the books. It's just, I don't know. I found that.
What did you think, Brett?
I think they made him actually a little more badass. I mean, the orcs weren't even willing to go near him. That's how badass he was. They were scared to even enter his realm. And I think they're saving Bjorn going off for the next movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Even
That's a
more
good point.
fantastic.
Then it would make a bit more sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they were like, nope, we'll go into the Elven Kingdom, but we're not going near Bjorn.
Fair enough.
I just found it disappointing because he's so different from the books. But then again, that's what I'll be saying about most things, I think. But yeah.
Also, did people watch this in 3D or 2D or high
3D.
definition? Because
I had to watch it in 3D because scheduling difficulties, but I mean, I didn't really even notice it. I mean, I guess you brought it up because of the bee in the Beyond's house, but that was pretty much the only time I noticed the 3D.
yeah, I was just going to say, the only time I really noticed, I think they were running towards Beorn's house, and there were lots of kind of little dragonflies flying out of the screen at me to remind me I was watching it in 3D, but I have to say I was quite underwhelmed with the whole 3D experience. So.
Yeah, they could have gotten more out of that, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, I watched it in 3D and the high frame rate thing. I mean, they used it. I'm glad they used it very conservatively. You know, they were not like over. You know, sometimes it just gets annoying if they use it too much. Actually, during parts of the movie, I took my glasses off and it just looked like a fine movie. You know.
frame rate like?
It just felt very soap opera like, very much more than the first movie for some reason. And Peter Jackson, he's not like the cleverest of directors. During some scenes when they put this over dramatic music, it felt like an afternoon soap opera.
So what is it? The high frame rate makes it more crisp and clear, like.
Yeah, it just feels more smoother, but it just feels like something you recorded with a digital camera, something you do at home, something that you do at TV shows.
For some reason, we associate higher quality frame rates with shittier television, which doesn't make any real sense, but it's true.
I think it destroys illusion on anything that has CGI because you see the seams. You actually don't want too much clarity when you have a lot of special effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually the first scene, actually the sets, it kind of stood out more that this was an artificial set, this was real or something. It stood out more, Yeah,
I don't know. I saw this in middle of nowhere, Arizona, so I'm pretty sure that it was just the plain old normal frame rate. But I mean, sometimes it does get too fantastical, and it's like, oh, that's a set. Yeah, but there were only a few times where I felt pulled out of the movie that way.
The Galadriel vision thing, is this common? This is because we saw even Galadriel send visions to Elrond in the other movies, in The Lord of the Rings also.
Well, Galadriel can do whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the books they don't have this sort of ring bearer telepathy thing going on, do they?
We wouldn't know. They're not point of view characters.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was silly how they sort of had the telepathy there, but I mean, then Gandalf has to send Radagast to send word to Galadriel later on.
Yeah, that's the thing. We haven't seen anything like that in the books, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think they're supposed to do that.
The way the scene was filmed, I wrote telepathic because that's how it's in the Wikia of, the Lord of the Rings Wikia, where I was getting the most of the summary from. But maybe just Gandalf just saw the symbol of Sauron, and that kind of gave him a vision that something Galadriel must have told him. But just felt it was a current message, right? More than something that Galadriel told him in the past.
I thought it was quite a cheap device.
In the Lord of the Rings films, they show Galadriel like telepathically communicating with Frodo. It's film canon, but I don't know if it's book canon.
I don't think it is. So.
It's definitely not, because if it were book canon that you can communicate with ring bearers, why didn't Gandalf just, telepathically tell Frodo at Bree, by the way, I've been a bit delayed, What's that about?
I think there might be some sort of evidence to suggest that they might be, because I think Galadriel does communicate with Gandalf after he falls in Moria and he's wearing one of the rings, and he sort of tells Celeborn that she knows that he fell there, so might be something to it.
Yeah, fair play.
Okay, I guess we can move on to the next part, right? Mandobley, would you like to read the second passage?
Sure, I would be glad to. The dwarves get lost in Mirkwood and then captured by giant spiders. Bilbo, with the help of the One Ring, manages to free them from the webs and names his sword Sting. However, while fighting the spiders, the dwarves are captured by the Wood Elves. Thorin is given an audience by Thranduil, the Elven King. Thranduil correctly guesses the dwarves are on their way to reclaim Erebor, the Lonely Mountain. He offers to aid them if Thorin promises to return some valuable jewels that Smaug stole. I used to say Smaug until the movie, but whatever, Smaug. Thorin, remembering the Elven betrayal, refuses and continues to insult Thranduil, who then imprisons the dwarves. During their captivity, a romantic subplot begins to develop between Tariel, a lady elf, and Keely.
Blasphemy!
It was cute. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this is what we in the anime business call reverse harem.
Reverse harem?
Yeah, because Tariel is chased by both Keely and Legolas.
It's like a hack / fan fiction. It's just, anyway.
You could do that.
Also, someone asked a question about the jewels, and embarrassingly enough, I only really know this because of the Hobbit video game. It's a necklace. It's an emerald necklace that was made by the dwarves of Erebor. I'm pretty sure by the same super competent people who made the One Ring, or in like that era. So they're just very beautiful and very powerful. And elves.
Sorry, I'm gonna let you finish, but in the movies there's just a box of diamonds that was in the extended cut of the first movie that the sort of offered the elves the dwarves, and then they slam the chest in their face, and sort of that's where we see that Thranduil gets pissed off. they're not a necklace. It's just like a box of diamonds.
There is an elven.
Movie.
There is a necklace. No, Bilbo gives the Elven King a necklace after.
Yeah, in the book, but in the movie, it's just a box of diamonds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, whatever.
So it has no magic powers in the movie. Is that what
It doesn't have magic powers in the book either. It's just
I think
fancy jewels.
they sort of gave some implication that they have sort of like captive starlight in them or something like that.
Does anyone
Nice,
know
just
what
a-
happens in the book?
Yeah, the important thing in the book is that Thranduil just wants treasure. Because just like the dwarves, the wood elves love fucking shiny shit.
Yeah, because
And
I
even
think,
from a
I think
distance.
Bilbo just gives him pretty much a random necklace or something. I don't think it's anything
Yeah,
from him in the first place or anything. In the books, anyway.
that's totally possible.
Well, I just wanted to point out I'm not really a lore guy, but I wanted to point out that Tandril and Legolas are not wood elves. They are higher class elves called Sindar, and so so not all elves are as
Yeah, but
douchebag as
no, but all
Trondheim.
elves like shiny shit. You might be used to like.
No, not all elves like shiny shit. That's wrong.
Are you kidding me? That's the whole problem of the Silmarillion.
Pretty
The
much.
elves are
yeah.
like, we want shiny
Yeah, but not
tools,
not
and
to
they
the,
start a
not,
war with
not
the
to the
devil for
level
them.
of dwarves. I think
Yeah, not quite
Thranduil
to
is
level.
in his own. He's in his own level of douchery, and Vikram, we need to have an after show where we do the biggest dumbass, so I can have my. In addition to my other 5-minute rant, I need to have a specific 5-minute Thranduil rant. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
The
Thranduil's an ass.
biggest dumbass.
Trandil is awesome.
No, the movie is trying to make you think that Thranduil's like a really chill guy. Thranduil is an asshole.
He's an asshole in the movies. What is
Yeah,
this?
no, he's awful.
He's
Yeah,
the worst.
he's the
and I didn't
Malfoy.
think Lee Pace was very good.
I actually liked him. So
Oh, you just threw it down. I don't
I'm
know. I
sorry.
don't know.
I thought he was like over the top campy, ridiculously strange. Like the elves are already
Yes.
campy like that. Like, did he need to like amp it up for no reason? He is a coward who's scared of dragons.
And even Toriel calls him out. She's like, and this is the thing. Like, we can get to Toriel later, but
I liked her.
Yeah.
I like Toriel. I loved her when she was being a strong, independent warrior woman, saying, "Come on, it's just not courageous to sit behind your boundaries. You have to go out and fight the enemy." And if they hadn't saddled her with a love triangle, she would have been actually a really awesome female, feminine character who passed the Bechdel test.
I
making her-
actually,
Bechdel, there's no other women.
She still has no other.
that's
yeah.
sort of like what I liked about Tauriel was like my problem with elves is that there's this like super complacent and apathetic dudes that just hang out in the forest and are like, oh, I don't want to go out. There might be orcs there. Let's just stay home and look at the stars. I mean, Tauriel is like, no, let's go out there and kill the orcs and like the world belongs to us and not.
I agree with you in the Third Age, but like at this point, they have fucked up so much shit. They don't really want to touch anything because everything they touch breaks. They've already shattered an entire continent.
That was Numenor, right?
No, Beleriand. Numenor was men fucked up. But,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Tolkien's nod to Atlantis. That's right.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that as long as we're talking about Tauriel, Evangeline Lilly, she was told originally, I read this interview with her, that originally there was not going to be a love triangle at all, that she was just going to be there to be this voice of reason, and that as they went back and did reshoots and just added more and more scenes, like insidiously they added in the love triangle, and she was pissed off about that because she was told when she was cast that there was that she wasn't going to be there for the male characters to fall in love with.
In which case, she's incredibly naive, and a woman who's been in the business that long should not have fallen for that shit.
Yeah, sure. But I mean that's a good point there because like there's I don't think there's a single woman mentioned in The Hobbit in the book. So I get that they have to add characters for that if they're making a movie nowadays, which is okay. But she would have been a really good, strong female character, and I feel like they're taking away from that by just making her that object for that love triangle. It doesn't make any sense because it's a dwarf. How can
Minor character Killy as well. I mean, he's like at best a tertiary character here. I mean,
yeah, but
it's
he's
just-
good looking. But
He's fun
he
to
looks
watch.
like an elf. He's just
I'll
a
give
short
them-
elf with a stubble.
I'll give them a little bit of time until they finish her storyline, though, because like as long as she doesn't end up like married to, well, actually,
gonna
no
die.
spoilers. As long as
She
they don't
can't.
fuck that up, like, well, I know some
Well-
of you have read the book, and I don't want to spoil things, but
I think
Well,
she's a
okay,
good
but-
character, but her sort of connection to the plot is atrociously bad. I mean, that healing scene, that was like probably rolled my eyes and groaned through that whole thing. Terrible.
yeah.
Look, I
Yeah,
think
like
I'm
the
coming at
dwarf
this
already
movie,
had Athelas. They didn't need her. He could have done it.
They both could have done it.
but they didn't know what. Well, look, I'm coming at this movie from a very different perspective than the rest of you, in that I've never read the books, and I was just happy that I sat through the movie and didn't have to go to the bathroom once. So I just have very positive associations with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I felt similarly, but like I also like I watch a scene like that and I'm like, she should have kept going with Legolas because it makes her look, I don't know, it's just like it's what they always do with female heroines, and because Beaufort had, I don't remember which dwarf it was, had already asked for Athelas, so clearly he knew what it was and how it worked and was going to use it.
He had it in his hand. He was running in the door, and then like Toriel like tackles him and takes it from his hand. Like steals his thunder totally there.
Yeah, but she had to do the whole chanting thing, and she had to like shine like a diamond.
Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, that was so derivative of Arwen. I mean, it's just oh god.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
And you know what? I'm going to say it because we're all thinking it. I like Evangeline Lilly, and I think she did a really good job. They cast her because she looks like Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's funny because she had to go through this love triangle thing even in Lost, right? Shows you.
Yeah, they ruined her character in Lost for the same reason. Kate was a great character until all the stupid...
I actually think it's a love rectangle because I think even Trandul was also after her. That's why I was kind of, pushing Legolas aside.
You think so?
No, she's a low boy.
Trandul is gay.
Oh, wait, what?
What?
How did he get Legolas then?
No, but I mean, I'm just saying the depiction in the movie is so camp.
True.
Actually, I'd like to backpedal a little bit, go back to the spiders. I mean, that was probably...
The spider scene was good.
Oh, wow. It reminded me so much of the Aliens, right? I mean, just felt like a scene from Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that scene was really good, and my favorite part was when Bilbo fucking, like, wrecks that spider, and he's because the spider's near the ring, and you're just like...
Yeah, that was good.
Jackson's really good. Like, I love
think it's a sand crab or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they handle all the stuff with the One Ring really well. You can see it getting its hold into Bilbo. It's good. I like that a lot.
I like it when Bilbo cuts down the dwarves and lets them drop like 40 feet to the ground and doesn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
They had cushions. They were wrapped into silk. But actually, that was probably my favorite part of the movie. That was one of the truly satisfying moments, the spider sequence.
Yeah, there's been a lot of complaining about how there's no character development for Bilbo, and Tolkien professor points out that a lot of the character development that Bilbo goes through is all very subtle. There's no dialogues, like the scene with the crab. After he beats it, he says, "This is mine," and it's all on his face. He doesn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dialogues. It's all like after that scene, he doesn't like putting on the ring that much. Like even towards the end with Smaug, he doesn't wear the ring until he has to or something.
Good point.
Well, it's also the complaint about character development is a silly one because like people complained about the first movie because it had too much talking and was too long, and they complained about this one because it didn't have enough. And it's sort of like it's clearly meant to be watched as a trilogy. And I imagine, though I haven't done it yet, if you watch what's the first one called?
An Unexpected Journey.
Unexpected Journey. I imagine if you watch Unexpected Journey and then dive right into Desolation of Smaug, you're not going to feel like, oh, there's no character development. You're going to feel like you already know the characters well from the first one, and then you watch them sort of slowly continue in this one.
Mm-hmm.
They actually sort of tacked on a little bit more character development, really ham-fisted character development at the end of Journey, because they felt that Bilbo didn't really have an arc in the first movie because they split it into three. They were originally going to have it like from Bag End to Lake Town, I think. But the scene where Bilbo saves Thorin from the Azog
I
at
hate
the Burning
that scene.
Tree, they added that in pretty late because they felt like Bilbo didn't have any character development.
Yeah, right. They didn't have to do those tacked on scenes in the first movie because in this movie, Bilbo uses his regular skills like, fighting off the spiders, rescuing them from the elves, all by that. Why didn't they just save it for this movie where it's more natural and organic than what happened in the first one? Yeah,
I just wanted to say that that scene we're talking about from the first movie where Bilbo saves Thorin, I'm really enjoying the dynamic between Bilbo and Thorin and this very complicated relationship they're starting to have. So I didn't mind that scene.
I love their dynamic, but I think that having Bilbo save him through suicidal bravery and an attempt at swordsmanship really undermines it, because the whole point of their relationship is that, like, Bilbo is a very ordinary guy. He's not a warrior. He's a hobbit. He's like a little bourgeois. I can't say that word. Thank you. Hobbit, and he's on this adventure, and he's their thief, and he keeps proving himself over and over because he's stronger character than Thorin, because he's brave, but he's also smart, and he's clever, and he's resourceful. Like when he saves them from the elves, that's brilliant. He's like trapped in that palace for like a month, and he gets them out through like cleverness and bravery and competence. And having him like throw himself at Azog because like that's the only way he can prove himself is stupid.
Okay, well,
he gets really good chances to prove himself in the second movie and in the third movie as well. So there's no need to include that, because it's not like that he doesn't do any impressive things. They didn't have to make up something because he does enough impressive things in the books anyway.
Well, they just needed a big final battle to end the first movie on, is what they needed.
I would much rather have had like Balin throw himself out there and get injured or something, or like one of the
anyone.
Yeah, like, but I don't know. That's a different movie, I guess.
Yeah, that scene was kind of clunky in the first place. I mean, they had to sort of neutralize Gandalf by having Dori and Ori hanging from his leg or something, because if Gandalf was sort of like in full form there, he could have like drowned the orcs and could have gone home, but yeah.
Can I bring up a couple of questions I had, again, about Thranduil? They're on the outline. What did Thorin say to insult Thranduil at the end of their audience? Does anyone know?
What did he whisper to him?
No, because Thorin like lapsed into speaking Elven or something to insult Thranduil, and I don't know what he was supposed to have said.
I imagine he said something in Dwarvish. I can look it up.
Okay.
That's actually the same phrase that Gimli uses in the Fellowship of the Ring when they're in Lothlorien. I'm not sure what it means, but it's the exact same phrase.
I'll find it.
It says to Haldir.
Well, while you're looking at that,
I imagine it's not pleasant.
Yeah, I think it's.
Were you also the one who talked about the face thing, Julia?
Yeah, I also want to know what the deal is with his face. Was he showing Thorin a memory of what happened to him, or that's actually what he looks like and he's just covering it up with magic?
Yeah, because elves are supposed to heal, right? But this probably was too big a injury to heal, and so he's using glamour or something.
So
I'd still hit it.
Thranduil, Red Priestess.
I'm trying to find it, but
I just never thought elves had that kind of magic. I didn't think they could do that kind of stuff.
In the books, they don't need it because they can heal.
You guys know, I can practically guarantee that thing was an idea of Peter Jackson's.
Sure.
I've been watching this, the first movie, the extended edition behind the scenes materials, and he quite often has this sort of peculiar ideas about like adding stuff to things like the bird shit on Radagast's face and his bunny sled. That was his idea. And the goblin axe embedded in Bifrost's head, I think that's one of his as well. I mean, he has these sort of wacky ideas, and the crew indulges him, I guess.
Well, I just want to say about that whole thing about things being tacked on. There's an artist I really like. His name's Aaron Diaz, and he's also a big Tolkien fan. He has a webcomic called Dresden Kodak, but he also does a lot of just Tolkien-based sort of fan art. And he says the best thing about Tolkien is that he structured his work to be easily reinterpreted and reimagined by others, and that the flexibility in world building is what makes Tolkien good. He wasn't a great writer, but he compensates with the world building.
I disagree. I think he is a great writer. But
I love his book.
The mark of truly great writers, and I would give Shakespeare as the classic example, is you can take any Shakespeare play and interpret it. You can have modern versions, traditional versions, this spin, that spin, and they will be so rich that you can take many different interpretations and add things on, and it can still be argued. And that's the strength of Tolkien, I think.
Well, I've tried to read him, and I never. I mean, when I say I've never read the books, it doesn't mean I haven't tried. And I've never really liked it. I don't like his style. I just find it too stilted and old fashioned. That's just me.
Yeah, it's funny, right? I mean, Hobbit's the only book I can connect with, and it was funny to learn that Tolkien actually doesn't like that style of writing. It's something, it's something he wrote when he was 30s or something, right? And back in the day, all the fairy tale or magical stories were kind of kiddish stories, and that's why the tone was like that.
He made up the stories to tell his son, and then eventually wrote them down.
Right.
Yeah. That's where it all comes from. His bedtime
Sorry to
stories.
interrupt. but I'm fairly certain Thorin basically just said, "Go fuck yourself."
That was a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think he told him and all of his family to go fuck themselves.
Oh, I love Thorin. I love him even more right now.
Yeah.
Thorin is a bit of an idiot, though.
Yeah, but he's our idiot.
So this was something that kind of griped me when I saw the movie first time, but didn't much the second time. It's just the Mirkwood scene was so short. I mean, in the book, it goes on for months or something. They ran out of food. Bomber actually faints or something, and the party is actually carrying him on the back. So it was a very hard journey for him through the forest. But in the movie, it's like takes place in like span of a couple of hours or something.
Yeah.
Apparently, Bomber doesn't get a single speaking line in this movie.
But he's still badass.
I didn't miss it.
Also, I looked up what Gimli says.
Yeah, I didn't miss him either.
I looked up what Gimli says to Haldir in Lothlorien because someone said they say the same thing, and that's been translated as "I spit upon your grave."
Nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Man, dwarves are so stupid, but you gotta love them.
Yeah.
That's a bit random, but has anyone seen the 1977 Hobbit film?
Yeah,
I just saw it.
absolutely.
Yep.
The Rolf
Do you
Bakshi.
remember what Thranduil looks like in that one?
I
Like-
don't.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a gremlin, doesn't he?
Animated.
Looks like
Thranduil.
you'd imagine Gollum or something.
The Grinch.
Oh, he does look like an.
Oh,
Jesus.
for God's
Yeah.
sake. We're all looking at the image right now.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share that because I like it.
I gotta rewatch that movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally.
We should do a podcast on that
fan
one.
commentary. Yeah, we should do a fan commentary. We should all watch it and just like randomly.
Yeah, awesome.
Is that the
Sing
one where
along to the
Smaug
song.
looks like a giant cat?
Yeah,
Yeah, that is.
I remember that.
But I think in a way they had to cut down on Mirkwood because they were opening up the Dale story in the Bard story. And I think that kind of makes a lot of sense. I like the idea that, because it always felt to me, I mean, for me, I'm a huge Tolkien fan and like Tolkien, I think The Hobbits is just random. It's sui generis. It's this kid's story that doesn't really fit. But I always find it weird that, you know, Bard comes along and you don't really know much about him. Then he has a big impact. So it's good to see more of that Lake Town story. And I think that's the appropriate place to put all the political stuff that he was trying to shoehorn into Bayonne.
Right. The second time I watched the movie, it was kind of late in the night, 10 o'clock. I was tired and everything. And so when they were going through the forest, they were, you know, because of some magic or something, they were all kind of confused, dazed, lost. Like there's the scene where, you know, Bilbo looks back and he sees himself behind him. Something like that, right? And when he looks down at his feet, he's walking backwards or something. So I was able to connect to that because even I was feeling, you know, tired and sleepy like that. So it was a good replacement. I thought, you know, they replaced the long, tiring journey with something that's very.
Yeah, I would see like those are the kinds of changes that don't bother me. They have purpose, which is to trim some of the runtime down, or to add a female character, or to. I mean, the Thranduil changes, I prefer him just being a greedy dick to him being, like, a cowardly greedy dick. But, like, that's their choice.
The Elven kings of, like, though in history have always done this. They, like, get
They're the
scared and
worst.
then they just pull back into themselves.
Yeah, elves are the worst. I don't know. Everyone always acts like everybody's Elrond. Elrond's half man. That's why he's so much less jackassy than the rest of them.
That's true.
And Galadriel's,
Doesn't
like...
do anything, though. I mean, Elrond just
Galadriel's
sits in
chill,
Rivendell.
but she, like, helped lead the rebellion against the gods, basically.
Yeah, that's
No,
why she's in Middle Earth. She's in exile.
Yeah, she's in exile until... Though he changed that a couple times because he kept changing his mind. But she's in exile until she says no to the ring, and then the Valar finally forgive her.
That was the point of that whole I passed the test thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
But even she just pulled back into her own little kingdom.
Yeah. Elves are all about, like, preservation.
Yeah, this is mine. Don't come in here.
Stagnation, more like.
Yeah.
Kind of what UK is doing right now, right? Kind of pulling back from EU.
Little island syndrome. Yes.
Hey, it does run in the British nature, I guess.
Yeah.
What?
Probably
What?
100 years
What?
from now, US will also do the same thing. They'll start pulling back a bit.
The whole isolation.
You Americans pulled back from us like about 200 odd years ago, so don't start that.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good call. We do a lot. I mean, we're pretty isolationist too, but
It's been a
Not-
very long day. It's been very tough with the ashes. Just please don't start accusing us of stuff.
No, I was just saying, I was drawing parallels between UK and Alps. You should be honored. You should be, you know.
honest.
comparing you guys to goblins or something.
We've just spent the last hour discussing how elves are douchebags. And by the way, Vic, the last time we podcasted, you called me the second best podcaster in England. So you're on 2 strikes of a 3-strike policy.
Okay. Anything else we want to discuss at this point before we move on to third? No, right? Yeah. Let's. So third part is all about battle scene and all
did
that.
you want to talk about the wood elves? Because the whole thing about Sindar being a higher class, I don't think that's actually from the books. I feel really uncomfortable talking about the books because they're on a different continent, so I haven't had a chance.
That's what I gathered from Tolkien professor, and he likes the idea of adding Tauriel, not just for the part of a female character. He actually thought adding Tauriel kind of showed the elf class system that wasn't kind of.
It's not really a class system.
But that's what happened, right? I mean, when
some of all the elves
said you are not of the same class as
which is a weird thing. I don't know why they did that. All the elves were invited to go basically to heaven, and everybody's on their way, and like half the elves got distracted and stayed.
By shiny things?
Yeah, basically, and trees, and they stayed. But like the ones who went are like kind of more educated, and they eventually came back after being huge dicks. They caused a lot of problems, but the wood elves are like, they're no worse or better than the high elves. They just speak a slightly different language and are a little bit less like, I don't know, they have less smithing power or less magic or whatever. They're not quite as competent, but they're not like a lower class. That is pure like she's not royal or anything, but but just being a wood elf doesn't mean you're like somehow inferior. Wasn't Thingol a wood elf?
Yeah, but then there's the whole thing in the movie about how Tauriel can't date Legolas because she's not like.
Yeah, but that's craziness. Like, I'm pretty sure King Thingol of Doriath, who's like one of the most important and powerful people in all the Silmarillion, is Sylvan.
But he was important because he had Melian with him, and she was one of the Maiar. So she made him relevant.
Still, I don't know.
But it just be like Thranduil's sort of arrogance and like prejudice, and not like an official policy or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, as someone already said, he's looking to creak the door on her instead of Legolas. But
they're all still elves.
Yeah.
They are higher class because the Sindar always seem to lead, and the other ones just kind of shy back.
They did drop the language of the Sylvan elves, and they did. I think Legolas actually introduces himself as the Sylvan elf in The Lord of the Rings. Does he? I don't have my book. Oh my god.
What about Celeborn? I mean, the elves of Lothlorien, the common people, they're wood elves, but I mean, Galadriel, she's like the higher class, isn't she?
I mean, it's not really higher class. It's just that she's like a wizard. The people who stayed are often the people who don't really want to rule. They're the ones who like enjoy like walking around, talking to trees. Whereas the ones who went were the more driven, ambitious ones. So I don't know.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And then like when you work for like 10,000 years, I can imagine that like it sort of gets ingrained, but they're all elves. There's no like difference between them.
I never thought I'd say that the Song of Ice and Fire was less complicated than Tolkien.
Oh yeah, I mean if you look at the wiki, just Sylvan Elf, there's like entire flow charts and stuff because the Sylvan Elves come from the Dark Elves and somebody else again.
Yeah, the world building is definitely more complex. Tolkien has a more complex world behind it, and it's also, I feel like Martin doesn't develop a lot of background that you don't directly need for the books, whereas Tolkien made up 5,000 different languages just to supply a lot of background that you never actually need for the actual story. Didn't really do that. Martin didn't make up High Valyrian or something because you don't like. He makes up a couple of words you need for the story.
But Tolkien is, he's a professor of philology, and I always get the impression that for him, the kind of and I love Martin, but the kind of liberties he takes with timekeeping and how long it takes different characters to get to the same place. Tolkien, he could never have done that. It would have gone against something very deep inside him because to him, the world building was the point. And the cool stories was just something professor. It was just stuff he was a great professor of Old English. He might have been a bad teacher of undergraduates, but that's very different.
Fair.
He was a great research professor, and he totally. Oh, you can cut this out, Vic. But I have to now have a 5-minute pro Tolkien rant. He went to Oxford when Oxford was in the Dark Ages. Like Oxford at that point didn't believe that English literature was a serious venue of study. They thought that things like the classics were what he studied. And he single-handedly made English literature respected. He totally modernized the curriculum. And everyone today who studies English literature at a Great Books College basically owes their curriculum to Tolkien. So he was
totally
an amazing professor. So don't diss Tolkien.
No.
I accept your apology before you've even made it, and we can move on.
I was just saying he's a terrible teacher.
Yeah, but that's different to being professor.
Yeah, it's very different, and I misspoke. His but he was a brilliant administrator, but his undergraduates were often. He was notorious for putting entire classrooms of undergraduates to sleep.
Yeah, but that's just awkward. Anyway, I'm going to stop acting all thorny now and stop being all pompous.
No, that was good.
I love you.
Should we go on to the next sequence, part 3?
Julia, would you like to read it?
I would love to. Under the cloak of the ring, Bilbo helps the dwarves escape by using empty wine barrels, which are sent floating down the river. Along the way, they are ambushed by Bolg and his orc party. I almost said blog. While the elves pursue the dwarves to cease their escape. In the ensuing chaos, Killy takes an arrow to the knee, and he's wounded by a Morgul arrow. Legolas and Tauriel are forced to halt their pursuit of the dwarves in order to end the orc onslaught. One captive is imprisoned and questioned by Thranduil. When Thranduil learns that the One has returned, he decides to seal off his kingdom to protect it from the impending evil. However, Tauriel leaves to save Keely when she learns he has been poisoned by the orc's arrow, and Legolas follows her. So this was a pretty fun sequence, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And before we move on, I'm obligated to make the following joke. Keely was an adventurer until he took an arrow to the knee. Okay, that's it. Go on.
I kind of had a problem with the Morgul arrow. I mean, are the Morgul stuffs like that commonplace that even like a shitty orc captain like Bolg can have it? I mean, isn't it supposed to be like a magical weapon for the Nazgul, and like they're putting it in arrows now?
Well,
I see.
Bolg is basically like Bolg and Azog are like the kings of Moria. They're pretty high. They're pretty high in the scheme of villains.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, come on, would Nazgul like chip off a bit of his like dagger and give it to him to make like a?
I don't know. I mean, you're
put
probably
a spell on it or something.
You're probably right, but like if anyone who isn't a Nazgul would have, and like but you know what? No, because like back when the kingdoms of Angmar were around, like Morgul shit was a real problem because a lot of the people who served the Witch King had it.
I just feel like it's again.
Really?
Like I mean, I don't think that writers really thought that. I mean, it was a derivative of Arwen and Frodo again, because I mean that whole thing with the Athelas and the glowy thing. I mean that's
the whole idea was now Tauriel has a reason to heal him.
Yeah, basically,
he doesn't have a reason to go after him.
Yeah, it's just a meet cute. It's a crude, cliched Hollywood meet cute, and they just had to have it to get the two lovers together. Oh,
about Tauriel and the love triangle, did you guys think that Tauriel had any sort of romantic feelings for Keely? I just sort of thought that she felt compassion for him and sort of like thought she needed to bail him out of trouble. I mean, but Keely is sort of like head over heels for her, but I just thought that it wasn't like from her part.
She's like 1,000 years older than him. I think she just wanted to help out.
She has that line where she says, "Oh, he's pretty tall for a dwarf."
Like she's not gonna.
Well, the way I read it was she started off just wanting to antagonize Legolas, and then she found out, hey, this Keely guy's really not that bad, and it kind of went from there. That's what I think they were trying to go for, at least.
Yeah, during the forest scene, she didn't even trust him to give him a dagger or something, right? So that's a big change.
And he sexually harassed her, and it was adorable. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can fancy someone and not want to arm them. I don't think that's evidence either way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if I fancy someone by default, I don't want to arm them.
Exactly.
I don't remember the last time I had feelings for someone I would want to give weapons to.
So guys, never buy guns or never give guns to your spouses.
Agreed.
That's not high up there on Valentine's gifts, isn't it? Chocolates, roses.
I am sure that people in this country buy people guns for Valentine's Day.
And Christmas. Probably. I think it's more of a Christmas gift, to be honest, because guns are not cheap.
Are they? You can buy shotguns in Maine for like $10.
I don't know. My understanding is that if you want to get, just a few gun collectors that I know. I mean, maybe it's just because I know gun collectors, and they're like, yeah, this is like $2,000.
Jesus.
I don't know.
I think
Madness.
I'm sure there are cheaper ones also, but of course. But they're
Well,
not
the
as
point
cool as a Black Arrow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a Morgul arrow. Sorry.
But
point
Morgul
is, it
arrows are
doesn't-
cheap, right? Because they're everywhere in this world, apparently.
Yeah, can't throw them away.
Yeah. But guys, the point is that
I
it
thought
doesn't.
only Nazgul had them. I got the impression from the books that that's a Nazgul thing and no one else has them. So
All right,
Yeah, I agree with you.
Liberties.
Well, I'm not really sure it's a Morgul arrow. I only wrote it because that's what was in the wiki. So
Oh, it is. It is.
Do they say it in the movie that it was a Morgul arrow?
I feel like
the
they
all
did
captain
say it.
says. And then like Oriel is like, oh shit, when they're interrogating the orc.
I didn't cast it. I just thought it was some poison thing. But okay.
Yeah.
I mean, do they make them in Minas Morgul? That's quite a bit of distance away. I mean, do they?
Minas Morgul hasn't been taken yet. Minas Morgul's still in Gondor's hands.
No. I mean, it was taken before the last king of Gondor, the champion guy there.
Actually, no,
idiot.
you are right, and I am a fool.
I mean, the canon of the movies, I guess that it might not have been taken because they were entombed in the Rudau, the ring race were actually
I'm
buried
mixing
there.
up Osgiliath and Minas Ithil.
Yeah, I mean, what does Morgul mean? Is it night or is it death or what?
Morgul means black sorcery.
All right. So it's a tower of sorcery then.
But these guys, these orcs, are directly serving the necromancer, right? So there's no reason why the necromancer isn't arming them with his best weapons also.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not questioning the sort of the logistical chain. We're just questioning whether the necromancer would seriously have that many Morgul arrows. He's just handing them out like confetti to all his peasant orcs.
That's
Especially how
true.
bad at
But they're
shots
not
they are.
peasant orcs.
Even his elite guard, they're not Nazgul, right? I mean, I'm with Tanya. I just think it isn't that way in the books, and it's
Yeah,
another
they should have just said
change.
poison.
It's another change that didn't need to happen. It
Yeah.
only happened so they can facilitate a meet cute for Toriel and Killy, and it's just weak.
Even with
They
the
should have just
all
taken
they
cues
say
from the
poison.
phrase and tipped them in night soil.
Yeah. Just be like, nope, poisoned.
But
Yeah, it could
the
be
way
poison, ordinary poison or whatever. They didn't have to go.
Well, orc shit doesn't sound as good as Morgul arrow.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
What's this other point someone brought up here about how?
Yeah, it's something I remember the Tolkien professor mentioned that there was a big deviation here that Bilbo doesn't reveal the ring to the dwarves. I mean, in the books he does reveal it to the dwarves. Am I wrong? It's been a while since I read the books.
I know that Bilbo lies a lot about the ring, so I'm okay with whatever they do as long as he's kind of weaselly about it, because that's what tips Gandalf off eventually.
And even the Hobbit itself, as a text, is him being weaselly about the ring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were definitely a bunch of places where, like, before they go into Mirkwood, he was trying to tell Gandalf about the ring, but I think the ring just is having too much of a control on him.
I mean, for sure, when he gets out of the Misty Mountains, he lies to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He also wants them to think he's sneakier than he is, which is smart since he's getting paid for being a burglar.
That in of itself is really sneaky, huh?
Yeah.
1/14th, the treasure. So what did you guys think of the barrel scene? I mean, I was really looking for. I mean, I was, there's something that I was dreading on the obligatory barrel roller coaster ride thing. But I thought it was really well. They did a lot of creative things like Legolas jumping on the heads of the dwarf, and then the
Yeah,
entire
that's
thing
awesome.
with Bomber, rolling on the side of the cliff, just bowling all the orcs off, and then him using the barrel as an armor.
It was
It's pretty
chaotic.
funny stuff.
It was chaotic and fun, and I laughed my ass off. Therefore, it was a good scene.
Me too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed some of it, but I guess it's just personal preference that I don't really enjoy that sort of action. I just like.
Peter, do you like anything? Honestly.
I like swords. I mean, I
Okay.
like the sort of normal action where they just like hack
All right.
heads of orcs But I guess it was fun, but I thought it was a little overlong. Maybe it's went on
I felt
forever.
like it was too long and a little bit over the top, but I didn't mind too much. Like that's one of the changes I can live with, I guess. Yeah.
It makes it kind of hard to suspend disbelief when they're like, the elves are just too, well, suspend disbelief in a fantasy thing. But anyway, it's like, they're just, the elves are too good. I mean, when Tariel shoots the arrow that's like point blank range going at Legolas, and she shoots it out of the air, I just, that's one of the parts where I'm just like, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, like, we have to mention two things here. Can Legolas not just walk somewhere? Why does he have to somersault and or slide? I always feel like Legolas in this movie has become a sort of pastiche of what he was in Lord of the Rings movies. That it's almost so ridiculous how kind of agile and superhuman he is that it becomes kind of stupid and pathetic. And like you say, it just is beyond belief, even in the world of high fantasy. And the other thing I want to say is I was so disengaged from that whole kind of barrel scene. I kept thinking, this is going to be a ride. It's going to be a ride in a theme park where people are going to get into barrels. And it just seems like cheesy, like Pirates of the Caribbean, the original ride.
Did anybody else also notice the point of view shots they showed, like as if they had one of those, the cameras kind of stuck on the barrel thing? It was kind of like the crappy resolution.
Oh, I was going to say that I did notice that we have these very different kinds of camera work being mashed together in one already chaotic scene, and that was noticeable.
Yeah, they could have just left it out. I think he just took it too far of it, I think, but it was, on the whole, it was still enjoyable for me. Let's see, anything else we want to discuss at this point? No, right? Let's go on to the Lake Town part.
The company meets a man named Bard and bribe him to smuggle them into Lake Town, where the master of the town rules with an iron fist. The group attempts to steal weapons from the armory before being captured. In the process, learn that Bard is a descendant of Lord Girion, who was the Lord of Dale, who attempted to kill Smaug with black arrows. After Thorin convinces the townfolk and the master that they will share the riches of the recaptured mountain, the adventurers receive a grand send-off. The injured Kili is ordered to remain behind while Oin, Fili, and Beaufort remain and tend to him in Bard's house.
So let's see. Yeah, they spend a lot of time in Lake Town segment, and I think it's all because it's because it's important for the next movie, right? And I think it was a good judgment because, well, not to spoil things, but Bard comes into play with Smaug in the next movie. So yeah. Entire backstory with the Black Arrow and everything was good.
I'm kind of bothered by the fact that it's like a ballista, like a big war machine. That's, I mean, he's not going to be Bard the bowman anymore. He's just going to be Bard the war machine operator or something.
Besides that dragon, he needs it.
Well, yeah, but it's not quite as mythic. I mean, it's not like a bowman who's just like a hunter who's drawing the string himself and doing that. It's just like, I think that actually sort of goes against Tolkien's values about like war and like machines of war and stuff like that. But
I mean, Tolkien professor brought this up in the books. It's only a small arrow. It's a regular sized arrow. But in this movie, Smaug is much bigger than in the books. It's a lot bigger than anything. And you don't want the audience at the end when, spoiler alert, when he dies to the arrow, think that arrow is way too small to kill such a big dragon. And so they had to even scale up the arrow.
Well, we don't know that yet. They may still end up having him be killed by the regular bow and arrow somehow. Like they might do this whole sort of bait and switch where the black arrow fails, and then in this last act of desperation, Bard just gets him with a regular arrow. I could see Jackson doing something like that.
Yeah, because they were doing this thing with the arrow, right? Like they hid it in a boat and things like that.
Well,
so
they're really
probably
hyping it
is
up.
Lost. But I think in the traditional thing, one of the magical properties of the Black Arrow was that it was always easy to retrieve it or something. I think that was the original property of it or something.
I think it was just sort of supposed to be that Bard was such a good hunter that he always got it back. I mean,
okay.
I'm not sure if it was like a property, like a magical property of the arrow itself.
Well, we have a whole other movie to resolve that.
And the symbolism, right? The Black Arrow was crafted by the dwarves of Erebor, so...
Yeah. What did you guys think about Bard in general?
I like
his character.
He was kind of bland, but I liked him.
Yeah, a lot of people were comparing him to Legolas, the way he looks and stuff like that, but he did look way different.
Yeah.
I think they sort of made him into Han Solo there with the smuggling and all that, and like the leader of the resistance or something like that. But I guess they had room to expand his character. He's not very fleshed out in the book.
And the master is a weasel, even in the book.
Stephen Fry, right? I mean, it was wonderful. It was just like...
He was good, but I sort of felt that they underused him there. He had like 2 scenes, I think.
But he really made an impression for the scenes he was in. Yeah, I enjoyed the Lake Town sequence because for a minute I was like, wait, are we in Song of Ice and Fire world? Are we in Westeros? Because it was gritty and unpleasant and no one was happy.
I just said except for Unibrow. He seemed pretty happy. I don't know his name.
Alfred or something?
Wormtongue Mark II.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't imagine Lake Town to be such a slum-like place, right? Or was it known?
I think the idea was that it had seen better days. I really got that impression.
It
Yeah.
kind of looked sort of like I imagined it from the books, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And I
thought
liked it.
It was good. Like they had rebuilt like shabbier houses in the ruins of like stone mansions and stuff like that. I mean, the main city of Dale, it's abandoned. It's up there, like right against the mountain. But the Lake Town was it like a summer retreat for the nobles or something like that? It's a smaller town, the Lake Town they actually visit, or is there something about that?
Yeah, I like all the bits about the prophecy too, like the king under the mountain was going to return, lit the forges and stuff, rivers of gold were going to flow through, and in the end we see all of that. That was nice. Kind of. Well, it was a short notice prophecy. They only told us the prophecy 5 minutes before they actually
Yeah, before it happened.
It was okay, I guess.
Yeah, I really liked that. That was one of the sort of satisfying scenes that I really liked in the movie, was when Thorin was sort of rallying the townsfolk in the square there, giving his big speech, and Bard was arguing with him. There's a sort of trailer speech. Really cool.
For things, trailer of things to come next movie.
Oh, I mentioned that Lake Town was very ethnically diverse, which was very noticeable compared to how the rest of these movies have gone casting-wise.
It had like the only black person in the movie.
Yeah, there were some black people, there were some Asian people, and I mean, I figure that if Lake Town was this huge sort of site of trade over time, that just people would come from all over, and that some of them would have stayed and had kids. So I thought that was.
I actually like that.
It also makes sense geographically because Erebor and Lake Town are already pretty far to the north and east.
Okay.
So it's already close, and like the Eastlands, or I mean, like Tolkien's super racist.
Very much a man of his times.
Yeah. So if you're already close to the east, where all of his like dark, scary barbarians come from, it would make sense that like darker people would be in Lake Town. So I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah.
No.
But I don't think you should just say that Tolkien was racist.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
I mean, we could have, I don't know, we could discuss that for a couple of hours, so we probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think you can make a blanket statement like that. I think we're going to discuss that on the Sam and Frodo Two Towers episode of the Lord of the Rings recap thing. So.
I don't think Tolkien is racist. I think he has. Well, anyway, let's do that on the Lord of the Rings podcast. All I would say is I appreciate the earnest good intentions of Peter Jackson in including some people of color in Lake Town.
I do too.
As a person of color, I find it deeply patronizing. It's just tokenism. If you want to have a person of color have a main character, that would be completely inappropriate in this book because there just aren't any. So it's just forced. And I just think it was so conspicuous in Lake Town and it's caused so much controversy. You can't right the wrongs of culture and contextual racism if you think that was the case in the books by including one peasant in Lake Town who's black. It's just pathetic.
No, you can't. But I will say that you also can't. It's the same thing as like with, there's that study done that in most movies, if you have 50% women and 50% men, people will watch it and think there are far more women than men in the background. And the average movie's extras are something like 60% men to 40% women, 70% men to 30% women. And I think that without making an effort to even change stuff like the extras, like, sure, that's the easiest thing to do, and it's certainly much less meaningful than any kind of significant change. But it's also, you have to start somewhere. And I would rather that they make a change like that than they just say, well, I mean, the source material, everybody's white, so we're going to leave everybody white.
No. I find it really deeply patronizing and offensive. It's like saying I don't need to stop to me. I'm a woman of color. I'm perfectly capable of reading high fantasy written in basically a medieval style Europe. I mean, without being personally offended by it. It is what it is. Now, if I watch a modern contemporary TV show and there aren't adequate representations of women and people with color and all types of sexual orientation, then I feel offended. I just find this really inappropriate.
I think I'm with Bina on this. Because I don't watch a Japanese movie and say, hey, why aren't there white people in this movie or something? And by adding this person of color in this movie just so she stands out, Peter Jackson kind of is reminding us, see, it's all good, right? It's all good.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't really think it served any purpose in the movie. I mean, I guess you could argue that, Lee, what you said, that it's sort of like trying to influence the sort of cultural subconscious or something like that, but it sort of just stuck out and didn't really serve any real purpose. It was just there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if he wanted to attack sort of cultural stereotypes, then he has a dwarf in there who has a weight problem in a world where obesity is a real issue. I mean, you get Bomber in there, who's basically just a fat joke for 3 movies. You don't even give him a speaking part. You know, I mean, like... True. So it just seems like tokenism to me. It's something there for liberal Hollywood to feel all happy about themselves, but it's not meaningful at all. Sorry, rant over.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it. I thought I don't know. I hardly even noticed, to be honest.
Neither
but
did
when
I.
someone
I was just
pointed
like,
it out, I thought it was a good thing. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's just good that we're having these conversations because even 10 years ago, people would not have had these conversations about a movie like this. I mean, we didn't when first Lord of the Rings came out, really.
Oh, I wanted
people did talk about like the role of the Haradrim and Essos, so to say, when first Lord of the Rings came out. And also the fact that Arwen was amped up. I mean, people talked about the fact that why was Arwen the one who was rescuing Frodo and taking him to Rivendell? And, Peter Jackson said then it's because, I want a woman to have a more active role. But even then it was quite tacked on because really Arwen's role in that film was just to sort of stroke Aragorn's ego and say, no, you can be better than your sort of, tainted ancestors. So, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being bad for Peter Jackson. He's very earnest and he has good intentions. So bravo, because that's more than many. It's more than Michael Bay. But
right.
I don't think the Arwen stuff was entirely fabricated. I mean, a lot of stuff was from the appendices where the actual like Aragorn Arwen relationship is fleshed out. They took a bunch of stuff from there. So, but I guess
but you didn't set me that as homework yet, Peter. So I haven't reread it.
All right. Well, looking forward to the appendices episode then.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Also, I'm very sorry I keep missing the other episodes. My schedule's been really unpredictable.
Okay, we know you're popular, don't worry.
No, it's the opposite. It's that I'm home and I keep like napping for 14 straight hours and then I have to go see my grandparents.
That's cool, because Lord of the Rings is going to take like 18 million episodes, so you've got plenty of opportunity.
Maybe I'll manage to be on all of them as well.
Yeah. Tanya, White Raven, you guys you should definitely join because you obviously have real book knowledge, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to, but I'm on summer holiday, so I've been trying to travel around a little bit.
Oh, fair enough.
Be on holiday till like March or something.
Don't worry, we'll still be going in April.
Whereas I have no real book knowledge, so I'll see you guys all again next December when the 3rd movie comes out.
Sorry, Vic, I'm getting off track.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this actor Lawrence Macare. It's this Maori actor, and he's basically plays the bad guy in pretty much all of the Lord of the Rings movies. And I only find out today he played Blog or WordPress Blog. I mean,
just call him Blog. You don't want to.
Okay, and then he played the Uruk-hai warrior in Fellowship of the Rings. He plays the Orc General Gottmog in Return of the Kings. He plays the Witch King. And now he's back here. He's pretty much like, the token CGI bad guy for
I find it interesting. I find it interesting when they use black actors for roles where it really doesn't make any difference. Like in Avatar, for example, all the whatever they were called blue people, all black actors as well. Yeah.
Race,
it bothers me. I don't know.
Basically he's playing CGI characters, right? Or actors in very big, heavy makeup. So he's not using color or something, but it's very funny. He's gone time and time again to the same guy to do all his villains.
That is kind of funny.
Probably because he's a monster.
I'm very sorry.
I don't know how big he is.
Sorry. I have to go. My laptop's battery is dying.
Oh, no, okay.
So I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to go try to find and steal my sister's charger. I might be able to make it back, but it's somewhat unlikely.
Okay, that's okay.
It was a pleasure podcasting with you all, though. It was a pleasure meeting you, Brett and Tanya.
Are you going on an unexpected journey to find the charger?
I am, and who knows what will happen.
If you need a burglar, let us know, okay?
Yeah. All right. Well, it was great to talk
Well, you need a
about
burglar
power.
to steal it from your sister, I guess.
No, the issue is that my dog ate the old one.
What?
Ew.
So we're somewhat low on chargers, but I will see you guys later.
Okay,
Thanks
bye.
so much.
Bye.
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 Oh, it's probably not a dog, it's a warg. Somebody should tell him.
Probably.
Maybe the Saxville Baggins nicked it.
Let's see, where were we? We were talking about Lake Town. Okay, so shall we move on to the next part? That's about Gandalf and the Necromancer
Oh
stuff.
my God, he's in this movie too. I almost forgot.
I'm gonna rant after the synopsis. So yeah.
Okay,
I have to
Make
get
this fun.
practice for reading my son's children's books.
I get to my accent, so yeah.
well, on average, a VOK listener has an IQ of a child. So we are lucky for that.
That's so rude. No one's gonna.
That's a joke. I love you guys.
Listenership.
Well, at least their IQ is higher than the host's IQ, so. Oh man, I'm trying to be funny here. Don't take it serious.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'm gonna read it. All right.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Meanwhile, Gandalf, who was also in the movie, reaches the remote tomb of the Nazgul and found that they have been revived. He is joined by Radagast the Awesome. I think Radagast is awesome. And it is revealed that the Necromancer cannot be a mere human, that the Nazgul only answer to one master. Dun dun dun. Gandalf sends Radagast to warn Galadriel of their discovery. He then enters the orc-infested Dol Guldur. I'm just going to call it Harrenhal, and is attacked by a Zog. While trying to escape, the Necromancer appears, and following a duel between the two, Gandalf is captured. With his worst fears realized that the Necromancer is indeed Sauron, Gandalf watches in horror as the orc army marches towards the Lonely Mountain.
I have to say, this sequence is like the best part of the movie, deserves a 5/5. I really liked every bit of it. I liked the duel between, Gandalf and Sauron. I like the armies marching out was like, reminded me so much of the upcoming Battle of Helm's Deep, and then also Attack on Gondor and everything. So let's hear it. What's wrong, Peter?
Well, it's entirely unsatisfying, Gandalf's whole arc in the movie. I mean, he doesn't, nothing happens. He just, goes for no reason to check on the tombs of the Nazgul. I mean, Radagast already brought him the Morgul blade, so he knew what was going on. He could have gone straight to Dol Guldur. And when he gets there, he just, wanders around and, casts, a spell that dispels, the illusions or something. And then Sauron is the smoke monster from Lost. We already had one guest star from Lost. We didn't need another. And then they just have orcs there. Why did Azog even need to be there? And they didn't really need to introduce Bolg because, Azog could have gone after the Hobbit, the dwarves just as well. And he's called the Necromancer, for Christ's sake. Have some undead there. This great opportunity to have some more monsters there, and you just have orcs. You didn't even see the Nazgul there. In the first movie, you had the Witch King there, you had ghosts, but and the smoke monster. Come on, you hire Benedict Cumberbatch to be this guy, and he's just this smoke monster, and eventually becomes an eye. Oh, even the shadow mannequin dude that was in the first movie is better than Sauron in this one.
I would have liked to see Sauron taking on a slightly human form.
He can't.
But he did, right? The guy in the armor and the infinite eye thing. That was so cool. I thought it was really creative.
I hated that.
He can't take physical form.
Yeah, but he sort of did in the first movie. I guess
But that was in a pre-thing. It wasn't in the actual Third Age.
No,
that's when he lost
the first Hobbit movie when Radagast goes to investigate
That was the Witch King.
No.
No. There was another guy that he found.
Yeah, he was black. The Witch King, he was sort of white and blue, sort of the basic ghost color, and the Necromancer was black.
I hated that part. It just looked stupid. It just didn't fit in with the rest of them.
You're right. Even when he goes into the thing, Radagast saying, "What if it's a trap?" And he's like, "I know it's a trap," and he intentionally triggers it, which is kind of odd. I guess he just wanted to. I think it's probably from the last movie with Saruman when Saruman says, "Hey, this is all, you're wrong." So probably he just wanted to make a big incident. It's probably like the Syrian chemical bomb thing. just to kind of get everybody's attention.
It's just douchebaggery, both on the part of Gandalf and on the part of the writers. I was really unimpressed with the big Sauron manifestation. And I think the movie parallel is, if you cast your mind back, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter, but one of the things I found amazing in the movies is when we finally get the Voldemort manifesting as Ralph Fiennes scene, which is truly horrifying. I mean, it's beautifully rendered. And I know that Sauron can't be shown in corporeal form, so they can't do that cool thing. But there was just a chill and a menace and a glistening evil to that scene that I was expecting in the first real confrontation with Sauron. And maybe it's just because it had no place in this film. It just felt kind of empty and, cool effects, move on. I was very disappointed.
They just wanted to throw some more special effects in there, and that was pretty much the whole point of the scene. That was how I felt anyway. Like, I hated it.
Yeah, and what's even more shocking is that Peter Jackson, he's a horror director, just as George R.R. Martin is a horror writer as well as a fantasy writer. And you know, some of the Red Wedding chapter in Song of Ice and Fire is brilliantly done because it's like classic horror, that creeping kind of that feeling that something's not quite wrong. The band's playing weird music because they're not really a band. And, you know, with this scene, the manifestation of Sauron, and like, you know, Peter said with the necromancer, have some undead. This is exactly where Peter Jackson should be shining, just like he made the cool spider scene. He should be making cool monsters because he did Brain Dead, for Christ's sake, you know? It was such a disappointment. It really was.
I mean,
to me.
there are other monsters. I mean, he just had hawks. You could have undead, you could have the bats there, you could have spiders. I mean, this is like the evil forest thing. I mean, capitalize on that. Don't just use the same old orcs that we've seen for the last 4 movies.
But it had to be the orcs because it had to connect to the Battle of Five Armies coming up, right? And he's already deviating by not including goblins, but orcs. So putting undead would have been just too different, I think. Purists would have complained.
Well, no, he's got the necromancer, dude.
But it's not necromancer. It is Sauron, right?
No, but it is the necromancer. Like, if you look at the IMDb page, Benedict Cumberbatch plays, you know, the necromancer / Smaug. He's not called Sauron at this point. Like, that's his defining characteristic, is like raising dead shit.
But necromancer is just a pseudonym or a forum name he's hiding under.
But why do they call him that? I mean, we know that the Dark Force, like the evil guys, they have the power to raise the dead. We see that in the Barrow Downs. Well, at least in the books. They have undead there. You could easily have... I mean, I don't want them to like show up in the battle afterwards, but I mean, Gandalf could have been fighting like skeletons and zombies there, like, and could have been cooler. I mean, yeah. And why did he go in alone? I mean, in the books, well, it's not in the books, but in the appendices and all the sort of Council well-run stuff. I always thought that it was like the White Council went in there together.
Yeah, Gandalf convinced the council to just like...
Yeah, they like stormed the place.
But the whole problem with this movie is that it's really when I said at the start that the movie is broken, what I mean by that is I feel the balance of the movie somehow is tilted too far away from The Hobbit. And I know Valkyrist did a very cool post on his blog about this, that somehow the Hobbit is absent for whole parts of this movie. And even if you do like something so superficial as look at the marketing materials for this film, you look at the headline post of this film, it has a big picture of Gandalf in the middle and all the characters around the sides. And why do we need Gandalf to go in on his own? Because for some reason Peter Jackson thinks Gandalf is the hero.
Actually, they have to have him do that because otherwise people would wonder where Gandalf went. And they'd be like, where did this guy go? Why is he just gone now? And this is kind of fleshing out what he was doing. I'm not saying they did a good job at revealing what he was doing, but I like the idea of them trying to show Gandalf was off getting into some stuff. He wasn't just, walking in the woods.
Yeah, but it's retarded, unnecessary stuff. Because Radagast has always done... anyway.
I mean, that's not Gandalf. Gandalf is, like, really smart. He's the puppet master, the chess master. Shane calls him the chess master. I mean, come on, he sort of, like, organizes all the 3 peoples to fight in the War of the Ring. Then Henry's just like, oh yeah, it's a trap, but I'm gonna go anyway. I guess Galadriel will bail me out. Okay, yeah.
But,
I'm in a cage now.
I haven't read the Lord of the Rings though, but in the other movies and stuff like in Battle of Gondor and Battle for Helm's Deep, he's on the front line. He's not just the armchair general, right? I mean, when it needs,
he's both.
He is on the front line also.
He doesn't do stupid things like running into a trap.
But still, if he had sent Radagast instead, that would have been really cruel.
But the point is, why does anyone have to go, or why do they have to go on their own? Like, it's not about one person.
Because if he goes back now, Saruman is going to say, hey, you're just imagining things. He had to trigger the trap to bring everybody's attention. The White Council is just going to overrule him. Now they can't ignore him.
If you're deliberately springing a trap, tell peeps what the hell's going on.
He did. He sent off Radagast. Go get Galadriel. I'm about to spring a trap.
Yeah, but don't you think it's good to get her there? I'm just stopping.
You'd think, but he didn't.
Oh, no, now in the next movie when everybody shows up, the Orc army is gone, so it's only going to be everybody versus Sauron. So that works out. And for all the evil that is Sauron, he did not kill Gandalf. That's interesting also.
Because he needs to be in the next movie.
I mean, I guess he might know that he's going to reincarnate if he kills him, so he's keeping him.
He can't really kill him.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm still holding out hope for us getting to see Benedict Cumberbatch actually portray Sauron versus him just providing the voice for the smoke monster. Because so far we have not. I mean, the thing is that they could have had anyone do the voice of Sauron. And I believe that there is a specific reason that they chose him, even though he was already playing Smaug. And he did mocap all of Smaug, by the way. He didn't just do the voice. So I'd like to think that we're going to see him show up in some sort of really extravagant costuming and makeup, basically looking like Angelina Jolie in Maleficent. But that's fine. It'll look cool.
Yeah, I sort of thought beforehand that it's going to be confusing if the two big bad guys have the same voice, but they had sort of the black speech. He was just
yeah, exactly.
doing that, and it's not like
yeah. And again, they could have had anyone do that.
Can you do that sound effect again, please?
Yes.
Sounds like Dothraki.
I so want that as my mobile phone ringtone. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, so I still just have to argue that there's a reason why they had him doing the voice of Sauron versus someone else, and I think that reason is we're going to actually get to see Sauron in the next movie as opposed to these sort of just shadowy smoke things.
That would have to be a flashback or something, right? Because he's not supposed to take human form.
Well, he could appear to Gandalf in a glamour of his old human form, because he used to have a human form. I posted a picture of it. Yeah, that's what he used to look like.
Lore people, so is that possible, or is he breaking a lot of rules to do that?
Yeah, I think when he died in Numenor for the first time, he sort of lost his sort of, I guess, shape-shifting abilities. He can't take a fair form anymore.
When he lost the ring, he lost a lot of his powers, so he really can't take a solid mass now.
Okay.
Yeah, but he could be like a ring wraith. I mean, they're wraiths. They're not corporeal per se. They have the cloaks around them and like the crowns and stuff like that. I think they could do some cool stuff with that.
Possibly.
But giving him a human form is just going to diminish so much by being this mysterious smoke monster, infinite eye thing. I think that's just cooler, right? I mean, it just leaves it up to your imagination. Seeing an actual person is going to be like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, I will say that was kind of cool, the way he was sort of like you, just like an infinite loop of going into the eye.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool effect.
Yeah, I wish it lasted forever.
I was getting nauseous by the time it ended, but I mean, it was sort of like gave the idea that it's like this eldritch or like this incomprehensible evil that, there's this like hole in the world or something.
Okay. So guys, I'm going to have to go in about 10 minutes. So do you think we can just wrap up the last section here?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So last section, and I guess I'll do this one. Once at the Lonely Mountain, Bilbo deciphers the map's cryptic clues and uses moonlight to find a hidden keyhole that opens the secret door into the mountain. Balin then explains Bilbo the real purpose and sends him down to the treasure to locate Arkenstone. Unfortunately, Bilbo's searching quickly awakens Smaug, who initially finds the Hobbit amusing but swiftly tires of him and intends to kill him. In Lake Town, Bard hears the rumbling caused by Smaug's awakening and attempts to affix the black arrow to the town's launcher, but is arrested. Oin, Fili, Bofur, and Bard's daughters are attacked by Blogg's hunting party before Legolas and Tauriel drive them off, with the latter remaining behind to tend to Kili. Then, in a dreamlike state after his medication, Kili admits his love to Tauriel. After convincing Tauren that they must help Bilbo, the dwarves enter the mountain and find themselves and the Hobbit being hunted by Smaug. Tricking the fire-breathing dragon to rekindle the forges, they attempt to kill the dragon by trapping him under a flood of molten gold. However, Smaug survives and stumbles out of the mountain, determined to make the people of Lake Town suffer for giving aid to the dwarves, leaving Bilbo horrified at the turn of events. Dun, dun, dun. So, was the climax satisfying, guys? Was it good enough?
I liked it, but I'm sure.
Cliffhanger.
Well, I loved the first scene between Bilbo and the dragon. That's like one positive thing, maybe the only one.
It's like one-on-one from the book, right, including the dialogues.
They stayed really close to the book with that one, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked all the nicknames he gave himself, or all the titles he gave himself. Yeah. Like Riddle Weaver, Barrel Rider.
Yeah. Well, Julia, if you have to go soon, do you want to give your thoughts on the last part of it?
As a climax for the film, I really enjoyed it. I was definitely on the edge of my seat, and this is an advantage I think I have as a non-book reader. Is I'm like, how are they going to get out of this one? And I was concerned. So I just really enjoyed it. It was just an epic. I don't care that the whole thing was shot against a green screen, and it looked amazing. Smaug was really cool. And I just love those mountains of just coins and treasure, and how it stops very quickly being impressive and just starts being like horrific. It's just mind-boggling, the greed of the dwarves and just how much is down there, and how the gold kind of became a character unto itself, and how they try to use it against Smaug, but as we know, fire cannot kill the dragon. So I enjoyed it, and I'm okay with the fact that the third movie is going to pick up with the battle against Smaug, because chances are it's going to be a very action-packed movie.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of things stacked for it.
Yeah, and I'm pumped. I always like when a Lord of the Rings movie comes around, because I know what I'm going to see for my Christmas movie. It makes things a lot easier. Well, that was basically what I thought about it. But I do have to go now, so just wrap up by saying I liked it. But I understand why people have their reasons for not liking it, so I think we can all just get along. Or not.
It is very polarizing, yeah. Thanks, Julia. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh my God, the fellowship is dwindling. We lost 2 hosts already. Will we survive till the end?
Which already makes us like way more interesting than the movie where nobody died.
Nice. Yeah, I thought Valros from the forums comments here that no dwarves died. I mean, I think that would have been a good thing to do. I mean, it's not in the books, but I mean, Smaug could have eaten like a few of the more inconsequential dwarves there, like maybe like Dory or something like.
Or at least burn them.
Yeah, I mean, there was just like no suspense to those scenes really, but I mean, I guess that comes from knowing the story beforehand. But I did like when Thorin was taunting Smaug and sort of like calling him a worm and all that, and that's sort of like determination to actually try to kill him, but even though it didn't lead to anything.
The entire Erebor set piece was so very nicely done. I mean, seeing the forges lit and just kind of see what the scale of the dwarf manufacturing is. It's like the industrial it's very industrial. It's not like I think in the first movie, in the Vision thing, they kind of show the prologue. They kind of show like a bunch of dwarfs breathing on a piece of iron or something. This entire scale came as a surprise. And,
definitely a cool set.
Right, and this is probably the last I'm going to refer to the Tolkien professor, but he liked the symbolism of an empty statue or a mold of an empty statue of the king under the mountain in Erebor. Just kind of, very symbolized, is showing that the king is missing.
Yeah, I think that works on a lot of levels, like also a symbol for Thror's like greed and like He was
Oh, yeah.
casting the gold statue of himself, and
Yeah, that's a bit much, I think.
yeah,
I like how Smaug was just like, "What is this?" He was like paralyzed by how much gold he saw right in front of him in this statue.
That was
This is
perfect.
weird.
Too. Yeah, this is perfect. That
I think
dragons
that's-
are supposed to be greedy. I like
Yeah.
that.
But I mean, I don't know about people who haven't read the books. I mean, was anybody going to think that he was going to die under there? I mean, he's breathing fire and all of it. Yeah, I guess if they could have like hardened the gold, like poured some water over it or something, they could have suffocated him or something. But
Well, Thorin did not read the book, so he didn't know how it was going to end. So he had to give it a try.
yeah.
Okay.
What about the Lake Town sequences? I mean, I
That-
thought it was again a little like superfluous action again with Legolas there. I mean,
You know,
I
that
really
was...
didn't think. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The second time when I watched the movie, I just thought the entire Lake Town sequence with Blog attacking them was completely unnecessary, right? I mean, what did they
Kind of
gain? The orcs were driven off with Legolas chasing them, so that entire sequence was completely not needed. They could
Sure,
have
that
ended the
Bolg was
movie
actually-
15 minutes before.
It showed that Bolg was actually worth fighting. I mean, he made Legolas bleed. Apparently, that doesn't happen.
Oh, I hated that. I mean, when Legolas was sort of like fighting Bolg, he was like just outright wrestling him. I mean,
I know.
he was like this guy is like a 2 heads taller than Legolas, and he's like, I mean, I don't mind Legolas's sort of flashy, like acrobatic stuff, and like, but that's his whole thing that he's agile, but he's not supposed to be strong. I mean, come on, this is the same guy who wouldn't even help Aragorn and Boromir plow snow back on the
Yeah,
mountain.
Legolas trying to wrestle that guy's like starting a land war in Asia. It's just not going to end well. It was just physically
worked.
not an even battle. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
like
and
stupid.
here-
I was sitting there with like my palm on my forehead, thinking, Legolas, what the fuck are you doing? Seriously.
I mean, it worked. He like wrestled him to a standstill, and he like
Yeah, but it
beat his
shouldn't
head
have
against
worked.
the.
It shouldn't
Yeah,
have worked because
Yeah, I mean,
Legolas
yeah.
isn't. He's not physically strong in that way, like we discussed. That's why he's not shoveling snow on Caradhras, right? I mean, the whole
He's
point of
walking
his
on top of it.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be able to do just like he shouldn't be superhuman. He shouldn't be able to do just anything. He's already really agile and really good at archery.
He's not the
and-
man of steel, exactly.
I did like that Legolas sort of stole Orcrist from Thorin. That was cool, but I guess he used it a little bit. But I think it fit his character. I mean, I didn't hate Legolas in this movie. I think he made for a good antagonist in the Mirkwood sequence, but I don't think him being in Lake Town, that was just sort of tacked on there for the action. It didn't need to be there.
How do you feel about him being in the movie in general? Because like quite a couple of people that I've talked to hated that because he's not in the books. So how do you feel about that in general, him being in the movie at all?
I think it makes sense. I mean, they do visit his home, and he is there when elves live a long time, so he would have been there. But I mean, his parts in Mirkwood were good. I mean, he was like this antagonist to the dwarves, and I think it fits his character that's going into the Lord of the Rings. But I mean, after that, he sort of becomes a main character in this movie that's supposed to be the dwarves and Bilbo, and not like some elven princeling.
I think if Tolkien had gone back and written it like
So I disagree.
like you said he was going to, he probably would have put him in there.
Yeah.
Maybe not in this aspect, but he would have been at least mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I kind of like how he is in the Hobbit films, actually. I mean, I don't have a problem with him being there. I think it's, like you all said, it's right for the timeline. And I actually like the character being a bit more serious and being, you know, a political debater with Thranduil. And, you know, I kind of, in a way, I miss the fact that he isn't that hefty in Lord of the Rings, where he's just comic relief with Gimli. So the one thing I have really gotten from The Hobbit is taking dwarves and Legolas seriously, in a way.
Mm. Yeah, I'm as you've probably noticed, I pretty much hate most things that are changed from the books. But I'm okay with him being there because I mean it makes sense for him to be in Mirkwood because he's alive at that time. He's probably there at that time, so why shouldn't he be in the movies? I don't know why he has to be in Lake Town. I don't think he has to, but but I'm okay with him being in the movie.
And they ended that on a cliffhanger as well. Him like riding off again. After Bolg on the horse there. I mean, what was the point of that? And as I said during the Dol Guldur thing, I mean, why did they need Bolg? I mean, Azog wasn't a crucial part at Dol Guldur. They could have just had Azog chase them, the dwarves, and not include Bolg at all. I mean,
well, Bolg is actually the leader of the armies when they fight the Battle of Five Armies, and Azog was dead by then in the books.
Yeah, but I mean, they have sort of made Azog he was the principal villain in the first film, so that's sort of the guy everybody recognizes, I'd hope. So
Right.
I think they should have just had him be the leader of the Hunter Orcs and sort of just, I guess, use the undead at Dol Guldur. But I guess they had to tie them together, like, because they're all like evil guys.
I think it's fine. I like that Bolg was bigger than Azog.
Is Bolg, by the way, is he the Conan Stevens guy was the first mountain, or is it some other guy?
Yeah, Conan Stevens was supposed to be the first blog, and his makeup was more like Lord of the Rings movies, but I think when they went CGI, they hired new actors. This Lawrence Macaro guy. Yeah, what did you guys think of Smaug? Just the dragon in general. What did you think? Was it worth it?
I thought it was
I think it was
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, right. It was pretty awesome.
I mean, I liked the way he moved. I liked the way he talked. I liked everything about him, except that he wasn't melting gold with his dragon fire.
Yeah, that seems strange.
It's like it can melt the One Ring, but it can't melt this regular gold.
Oh right, and I guess Peter and Bina, you brought this up in the VOK 52, right? The dragons consume the dwarven rings.
Yeah, in the book Gandalf mentions a couple of times that dwarves could, dragons could like consume with the fire the rings, and they have done so for 4 of the dwarven rings. And
Wow.
Gandalf sort of speculates that that could be done with the One Ring as well if there was a dragon powerful enough for that. I really like that when Smaug was like smelling the ring and going like, "You have something precious." Mm.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, let's see. What else can we discuss? Or Bina, would you like to start your rant?
I want to hear that.
Oh.
So yeah, Bina, overall, let's put it all together. So what are the big things that kind of yeah.
Okay, this is my big macro problem with this movie. I think a little bit like Tolkien had the excuse that he wrote The Hobbit as a kid's book, and then he wrote this amazing Lord of the Rings, very adult, very serious, very profound, and always tried to go back and kind of shoehorn The Hobbit into an adult thing, but never could quite do it. But he had the excuse that he didn't know what it was going to become when he started writing. Peter Jackson doesn't have that excuse. He comes to this material all fully laid out in front of him. And I think he needed to make up his mind. Is he making a children's film, which is The Hobbit, or is he making a fully developed prequel to Lord of the Rings, which is something quite different, using all the knowledge of the appendices in the Silmarillion? And I think by calling this film The Hobbit, or this set of films The Hobbit, he sets up expectations of what it's going to be, which is, the adventures with the trolls and the rolling down in barrels and all that kind of stuff. But really, he wants to do something more akin to what Tolkien was doing in the later books. So just call it something different. Call it the War of the Five Kings or whatever it is, and make your trilogy. But I always find with these movies, they're really tonally uneven because they go back and forth between bobbing up and down in barrels because that's funny, and then the really profound stuff, which is, the necromancer being revealed, which should be chilling. And this tonal unevenness, I think, is just bad filmmaking, and it's the director who has to carry the can, because he has the vision of what these movies are going to be, and I don't feel he has a unified vision. You've got to pick your choice, make your choice, and make it, and he hasn't done that, and so I blame him. And I think the Lord of the Rings will always be the better movies because they know he has an absolute vision of what he wants to do, and he does it. And you can disagree with him maybe taking the elves to Helm's Deep or whatever, but ultimately he knew what he wanted to do, and they're tonally very even. So rant over. It wasn't really a rant, it's just like a whine. I think these are bad movies, structurally bad movies, covered up with very good acting and very good special effects, but structurally they don't work.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the movie is very unbalanced. I would call it the Dance of Dragons of the Hobbit movie. That's just the way it left off, and just the pacing and stuff also. But yeah, I just like all the added information that was given to me without having to read the Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings themselves.
Yeah, I think 2 movies would have probably been ideal here. I mean, there's so much like superfluous stuff here. I mean, we didn't really need like a lot of.
Yeah. What I would have liked I would have really enjoyed one movie that was just really close to the books and was just The Hobbit without any added extra stuff. And Peter Jackson would have been able to Like you can see like the scenes that are close to the books are amazing, and Peter Jackson would have been perfectly able to make that movie that I would have enjoyed so much, and I'm sure many people would have. And it wouldn't have been as epic as The Lord of the Rings. It wouldn't have been. I don't know whether it would have been a good prequel to the Lord of the Rings movies, but it would have been a really good, enjoyable movie.
But that's okay. It doesn't need to be a prequel. Like, we can just make. What's wrong with just making a great, fun children's movie about 13 dwarves and a hobbit going and having some adventures?
Just the premise was so interesting, so cool. I mean, but we have to be. We don't even have to be cynical. He did it for making 3 movies, right? I mean, it's a lot of money. It's just, there's.
Do we really need money?
The studios need money.
But let's be honest, right? This is a troubled project. It's a project that was meant to be done by Guillermo del Toro. It was then taken over by Peter Jackson and sort of saved. And because I think del Toro also wrestled with this idea of how to combine the kids' stuff and, it defeated better men. It defeated Tolkien. So, of course, it defeats del Toro and Jackson. Sorry, Brett.
That's okay. I actually like what they've done here. I think if he wanted to do a kids movie, make a cartoon. I mean, this is like what I want to see. Not, I mean, The Hobbit's a good book and I enjoy it, but it's just it's so rich that I love it. And I think if you hadn't read The Hobbit, you would love this movie too.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
No, it's still uneven.
Let's be ingenuous. Some scenes fit really well into a children's movie, and there's the whole thing with the barrels that's just funny, and there's so many funny scenes, and then there's so many scenes that are serious or should be even more serious. And I just feel like it doesn't blend in very well. It doesn't go very well together. It's just, I don't know, like the overall structure just doesn't seem to be working very well. I'd probably feel the same about that if I hadn't read the book.
I think they did the same thing in Lord of the Rings, though. I mean, because you always had like Gimli and Legolas having their who can kill more thing, and that was funny. And I mean, they had funny moments. It's just, I don't think I didn't have a problem with it. I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, as somebody who's only read The Hobbit and not The Lord of the Rings and the bigger lore in general, this movie was satisfying because I guess the first movie didn't do as much because it was trying to set things up. This movie, I got some deeper lore out of it. So that's why I feel good about this movie. But you guys are right. I mean, it's structurally, it's very, very jarring, it goes from here and there.
I mean, where I would get a bit more ranty is, but we've already covered a little bit, is I didn't like the treatment of race. I found that very patronizing. I found including a female character fantastic, but putting her in a love triangle, again, very patronizing. And that's what really annoys me, these kind of anachronistic, trying to make it all modern and appeal to modern politically correct sensibilities and just failing. And then I just found that the way in which I think Peter Jackson is an amazing director of action and monsters and all that kind of stuff. I think he's a bad director of actors, but he gets away with it because most of the actors he casts are amazing. But where you really see it is in very conflicting performances. So you have Martin Freeman, who does this amazing performance. And, a lot of, like you said, like it's not his character development is just through his facial reactions. And then the scene between him and Smaug, I think, is wonderful. And they seem to be, and even Thorin Oakenshield, Richard Armitage is grounding it in some kind of reality about this vengeful guy who, I don't know. And then on the other hand, you get Lee Pace. And I love Lee Pace. He stars in one of the best films I've ever seen called The Fall. He's a great actor, but he's really camping it up. And it feels to me like when you've got Tauriel and Legolas trying to play it quite real, and then you've got Thranduil, who's like in some level of camp, you need a director to say, come on, mate, dial it back in because we need to be tonally correct in our acting performances. So even on the kind of the basic execution level of this film, I had so many issues with it.
I was saying earlier that I watched the movie with my brother who has seen the Lord of the Rings movies but hasn't read them. He's not that much into the sort of like geeky fantasy stuff as I am. So he didn't like this movie at all. He was like, when we came out, he was sort of pensively asked me, he was like, did the dragon talk in the book? And
I like this version of dragon because, I like dragons that are smart, dragons that can talk, dragons that are, love gold and stuff like that. And, this is the dragon for me. And, that's kind of the disappointing thing in Dragons and Songs of Ice and Fire, and it's kind of revealing in Prince and the Queen and the Princess. Dragons are pretty dumb there.
Yeah.
And they're pretty small also, so they're never going to be as good as Smaug.
Yeah, their intelligence is like about a dog, I think. But
yeah,
and my brother, he sort of saw that the pacing of the movie was bad, and he complained that it ended in a cliffhanger and all of that Gandalf's stupidity stuff. And I mean,
they could have killed Smaug in this movie, right? There's no reason why they are saving it. There's already a lot of stuff for the next one.
Yeah, actually, when we did the first Hobbit podcast, you guys sold me on it, like that was going to happen. I actually thought that the name of the movie was going to be a double meaning, like the Desolation of Smaug. Like, it's actually just the wasteland, but actually the destruction of Smaug as well. But didn't happen.
And again, you can't have that in the second movie, I guess, because what would you do in the third?
Well, there's the Battle of the Five Armies, and now the Gandalf rescue thing.
And the sort of
Smaug in the second.
And the final confrontation with Lobelia Sackville Baggins.
Oh yeah. I wonder whether they're going to keep that in.
I really hope so.
They mentioned her in the first movie. I think they will.
So I guess.
Did everyone see the movie with, or where did you see it?
Oh yeah, I saw it in 3D high frame rate. I guess I'll continue to see the next movie and also that, just to kind of give it a fair shot, and just because it's different. But I don't think this technology is gonna go anywhere. How about you guys?
Yeah, I watched it in 3D as well and the high frame rate, but I didn't really notice much of a difference. My preference is to see movies in 2D and just like normally, but didn't really have time slots for that this time, so don't notice a difference basically.
Has anyone seen it in 3D and 2D so they compare? Because I feel like if you've only seen 3D, it's hard to say how much.
I saw the first one. I saw the first one in 2D, and I mean, I'm happy watching it either way as long as it's on the big screen. You have the good sound. It doesn't really make a difference to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about the size of the screen and the power of the sound system.
Yeah, you don't want too much 3D in it. That way when you eventually buy the DVD or a Blu-ray and watch it at home, you don't feel like, I guess that thing about arrow shooting towards you was the 3D part or something. So
yeah, I can't imagine myself watching this again, perfectly honestly. I have the Lord of the Rings movies and I watch them a lot, but I can't imagine me needing to watch this again.
Yeah, that was the thing I thought about. When the first movie came out, I was considering not watching it at all, because I knew I was going to be upset about so many things. And then I decided if I'm going to watch it, I'll watch it in the best quality possible. And I ended up, like, my dad and I ended up driving like 2 hours to get to a cinema where you could watch it in English without subtitles in 3D high frame rate. And I don't know whether it was worth it. It was a fun trip.
Without subtitles, that was something that kind of like bothered me as well. I mean, I think I enjoy watching at home better without subtitles because they sort of plug the screen and sort of confuse.
Especially in 3D, they're so much more annoying in 3D.
Okay.
Subtitles are always annoying.
What happens with the subtitles in 3D? Do they just like do they like pop them out of the screen?
No, they're weird.
Oh really? They put them on their own level or something, so it feels like it's front of the screen.
I don't remember what exactly. It's been a while since I've watched a movie with subtitles in 3D, but I just remember that it really bothered me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I tried to avoid that. But it's hard. Like I watched it in Germany with my dad last year, and it's just really hard to find cinema in Germany that doesn't subtitle English movies or shows English movies in the first place. And in Scotland they didn't have any. I didn't find a cinema in Scotland that would show it in high frame rate, so I had to watch it in Germany. It's really difficult.
There's an IMAX in Glasgow, I think, but yeah, it depends where you are.
If I can quickly ask you guys, did you guys think this was better than the first one, or first one was better? Brett?
I kind of look at them as a trilogy, and you got to take them all together. So it's hard for me to say one was better than the other. I guess I'd say the first one was just a hair better, but to me they were just 2 parts of a 3-part, one whole movie. So I don't like to take them one for one, I guess.
Peter?
Yeah, the first one was definitely better. I mean, it sort of had more like satisfying resolutions, I guess. I mean, they actually like killed the trolls and the Goblin King and all that, and this movie was just a bunch of setup and all that. And the first movie actually had sort of the feel of the Hobbit as well, more than the second one.
Huh. Oh, okay. Tanya?
I don't know. I'm kind of having a hard time comparing them because I got to go to the premiere in Wellington for the second one, and just the whole event and the whole day and everything was just so amazing that I find it difficult to compare that.
You have to tell us now something about the premiere in Wellington. That's so awesome.
It wasn't actually that exciting, to be honest. I mean, I was really excited and everything, but like I was traveling with friends anyway, and then I found out that they're having that gala premiere for charity, and we were traveling on the South Island, and we were supposed to take the ferry to Wellington on the 10th, and the premiere was on the 9th, and then I called my mom and got all miserable and upset about how things aren't working out, and then I booked a flight from Nelson to Wellington, which was kind of funny because Nelson is the funniest airport in the world. They don't have any security checks or anything at all. It's tiny. They didn't ask for any form of ID or anything.
Like Hobbit, and only good people live in New Zealand. So you know that now.
Cute. I loved it. Oh, and the airport is amazing. I'll try and the Wellington airport is awesome because they've got those Lord of the Rings decoration things. I'll try and find a photo of that. Yeah, and then I the premiere was at the Embassy Theatre, which is where they had the Lord of the Rings world premiere at some point. And there were a couple of actors, but not any of the big ones. Pretty much just the Kiwi actors who played the dwarves. Pretty much, some of them.
I got people in costumes. Were lots of people dressed up and?
Not really. Not of the people who actually went into the cinema. There were a couple of people waiting outside just to take photos and stuff, and there were lots that were dressed up. But there weren't actually. One girl was dressed up as a dwarf. That looked pretty awesome. But other than that, there weren't a lot of people dressed up. I was wearing my Hobbit dress. I've got a photo here. Okay. So they have that huge golem hanging around somewhere in the airport. It's huge. It's not a good photo, but I can't find a better one right now. And they've got Gandalf and eagles as well, and like it's pretty awesome. I just spent like an hour on the airport taking photos. Yeah, and then yeah. I mean, I met a couple of interesting people at the premiere. Like I met some people that were extras in the movies. I met someone who works at Hobbit and can maybe get me in cheaper. We'll see about that. Like I met some people from the Wellymoo. That's like the local Tolkien society meetup in Wellington.
Like Gandalf, Lee made it back after fighting the necromancer. So how did it go, Lee? How did you defeat did you defeat your evil sister?
I did. Steal
the Arcane power adapter.
Yep, I'm back up above half, so I've got some time left. What I miss?
Okay, we went through the sections, and now we're just kind of going through the movie in a very macro level. And I was asking everybody what they thought of the, which movie they thought was better, the first or the second. So I'm about to ask Bina. So what did you think, Bina?
God, I think this one is probably marginally better than the other one, purely because I really did like the confrontation between Bilbo and Smaug. But I think the thing is, my problem is with the whole conception of this movie in 3 parts. So I'm not sure any of the 3 parts I'm going to like more than giving it 2 lemon cakes.
So I thought it was, I thought this movie was definitely much better than the first one. I felt like I didn't have as much issues as I did with the first one. And after listening to Tolkien Professor, I just feel good about it. But I think the last movie is going to be much better than both of these together. So yeah. So Lee, how about you? Which do you think is better?
I don't know. I have trouble distinguishing between these movies. Same with Lord of the Rings. I guess the first one was a little better.
Oh wow! Okay.
I liked the dinner scene and the riddle scene more than I liked anything in this.
That's a good point. Those were really good scenes.
Great. Okay. So let's see. Anything else we want to discuss about the movie before we do something else? I just thought, since this is the first podcast, or at least the first podcast I'm doing for the year, and this is a movie thing kind of podcast, wanted to ask you guys, what's the best movie you guys think you saw in 2013? I think according to box office and stuff like that, Iron Man 3 was the top grossing movie of the year. But would be interesting to see what you guys thought. So
The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. It's the only movie I saw this year.
Seriously?
I think I saw The Heat, and
Oh my god, you saw 2 movies this year?
Oh
Jesus
man.
I think so.
So what's your best thing then? Are you into TV shows, books, or what? Or games?
I mean,
or
I watched
something?
movies, but this last year I haven't really felt the need to go see one.
Okay.
I guess I watched reruns of TV shows on Netflix. I don't even have TV.
Oh god.
Same here, but yeah. Okay.
You guys are scaring me.
So Lee, how about you? What's your best thing?
Favorite movie of the year?
Yep.
My favorite movie I saw this year was Drive, but that didn't come out this year. My favorite movie of the year might have been Wolf of Wall Street, which I saw yesterday.
Huh. Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Huh. That's
And I love
surprising.
Scorsese, so.
Oh, okay. I know to check that out then. How about you, Peter?
Well, if I'm going by the pattern that Lee just did, I guess that the best movie I saw this year was 7 Years in Tibet, but the best movie that came out this year was Pacific Rim, definitely.
Awesome. How about you, Tanya?
Now You See Me, the one with the magicians and stuff. That was awesome.
Oh, I haven't heard of that yet. Okay.
That's amazing. You should watch it. It's about a group of magicians that steal a lot of money, basically. But yeah, it's difficult to sum up the top twists and stuff. I loved that one. I like magic too.
That's
And
cool.
hypnosis. So that was cool.
Okay, Veena, you are the professional movie reviewer. What's the best movie you saw this year?
Well, I'm not professional. I think I saw 400 movies last year. And,
Wow.
Like 2 each day.
yeah. I think some of the among the best would be, let's just run through the list. I mean, Django Unchained, I love, early in the year.
Oh, that was
I saw
Did that
that.
come out this year?
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about 2013, right? So stuff
Yeah,
that was
December
this
2011
year
was
and last
also.
year.
So last year. So stuff that was on release last year that I really loved. Django Unchained, the Disney movie Frozen, actually, the first Disney movie that passes the Bechdel test. I mean, amazing. Mothers take
really?
their daughters to see it. Yeah, it's amazing. I went in so skeptical, but I loved it. Lincoln,
that was
mainstream,
really
I
great.
loved it. Nebraska, so moving. Mud, Matthew McConaughey, amazing year for him.
That was really good too.
The Paperboy, again, Matthew McConaughey in a grungy, sleazy kind of B movie. I'm obsessed with JFK, so Parkland. And then some indie movies I really love that maybe aren't out yet are Under the Skin, which is the Scarlett Johansson as a fembot stalker in Glasgow. Emmanuel and the Truth About Fishes. I don't know if that's out in the US yet. That's amazing. And Gimme the Loot. Oh, and that hilarious comedy In a World, which stars what's her name, Lake Bell, and she's like the person who does all those movie trailers in a time
heard
of
your
fear.
review of it. It sounds very interesting.
It's so fun. And then Only God Forgives, stupidly violent, much like Drive. We just have Ryan Gosling looking like buff and violently killing peeps in a nihilistic way. It was a good year for cinema, actually.
Yeah, it feels like that every year, right? Every year it feels like it's getting better at least.
Well, there are more releases, so statistically it has to get, there's more best films. Before, there used to be sort of 4 films you had to see every week if you wanted to review them, and now it's 8 or 10.
Oh, wow, okay.
So there's just a lot. It's a crowded schedule and getting more so.
Can you send me a list of these recommendations? I'd really like to see them.
Yeah, I'll ping you a thing I'm actually just looking at my blog on the drop-down thing of Bina's Best of 2013 and just going down and...
You have a blog?
You have
How
that.
did I know about this?
Oh, you don't know she even has a podcast and everything.
I know she has a podcast. I didn't think that she had a blog. That's a pretty obvious connection.
The blog predates the podcast by about 10 years, so...
Wow. Well, I am slow, but we knew that.
Yeah. But I warn you, I don't spell check any of the entries, so...
Oh, Bina, that's so exciting. I have something to read in class.
No,
God,
please get an education.
I thought I was going to have to pay attention. I was panicking.
I like the title of the blog post about the Hobbit.
So,
You think that they would put Bilbo or Smaug or both of them into the center of the poster, and they don't.
There's no dragon and there's no hobbit at the center of this picture, or even a ring.
I love Ian McKellen still. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Gandalf rocks.
Sorry.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
awesome.
for me, the best movies, I think it's between Pacific Rim and Gravity. Since Peter already gave it to Pacific Rim, I think I'm going to give it to Gravity. You know, it
Gravity was just weird. It was good, but it was
No, I like
it's-
Gravity a lot, actually. I think on a
Yeah.
technical basis, that deserves to be best of the year. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just fun.
technical basis,
yeah, I enjoyed it, but it was weird.
But Wolf of Wall Street, although I call that 2014, I mean, that is an amazing film, right? I mean, it rocks.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. Before we end the podcast, I just wanted to do a bit of housekeeping. I like to thank all the people who left us reviews on iTunes. Really appreciate that, guys. So they are Your Mother Was a Hamster, Johnny J Bones, Sir Chud 68, Dark and Light, Fizzbits, and that one anonymous guy. Thank you, guys. Thank you for leaving reviews. It really helps on iTunes. Thank you. So that's about it, right? Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. I have a quick random question. Tanya, also for everyone, the link you just sent for Now You See Me, am I the only one for whom that Now You See Me's title is in Russian for no reason?
Yes, you're the only one.
Because the whole page is in English, but the title's in Russian, and IMDb says it's on the normal version, and I'm very confused.
Yeah, I see it in English too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I see it in Finnish, so I guess.
But you know, internet browsers can be weird. Internet,
but like,
'cause
I'm
I
in the
came back from
US.
Australia 2 weeks ago, and I keep getting google.com.au, and I clear everything, and it keeps giving me Aussie links for everything. So
Oh, that's so weird. I don't want my computer to think I'm still in Russia.
I tell you what's even weirder. Like, I moved from the center of London to Bumblefuck, and every time, you use location services, my
Yeah.
Facebook, everything, and I've cleared I even have like a brand new iPad. Everything thinks I'm still in the city. Like, it refuses to acknowledge I'm far from civilization. It's hilarious.
That's fine. You'd rather have people think you're in London, wouldn't you?
No. I don't.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, all my devices get really confused with the countries I've lived in because I move between countries way too often, and it just confuses all my devices and me and everyone else. But yeah.
Wow, that must be fun. So what are you, an international spy or something?
Yes.
An assassin.
No, I just like living in different countries, so I take every chance I get. I went volunteering for a year after I finished school, so I lived in Argentina for a year.
Oh, I love Argentina. I haven't been, but it's supposed to be really cool.
It's dangerous, but it's awesome. I love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's kind
One
of
of
like
my
New
best
Zealand.
friends is from Buenos Aires.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Sorry, that was random.
I really want to go back. And then I'm studying full time in Scotland. And then I'm studying here on exchange for a year. And then
Well, you should try and have a meetup, like a Scottish meetup with Glenn and those guys, Douglas River.
I'll be back there from August or September this year, I guess. So yeah, it would be cool. And then my family still lives in Germany. I don't think I'll ever live in Germany again because it's full of Germans. But
I was trying to place your accent.
keep going back to that. So yeah.
Hilarious.
I was trying to place your accent and I couldn't. And you're German, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought New Zealanders have an interesting accent. I'm sorry, Middle Earthers have an interesting accent.
Yeah,
we
there's like
do
a
have
weird
a
pitch to it,
yeah.
like a lot of rings.
So that's about it. Do join us in a year to review Hobbit 3.
Can't wait.
If we are still around.
We'll probably have like 400 episodes by then.
Oh yeah, and we'll be like world famous and everything also.
Actually, it's probably worth pointing out to people if they subscribe through iTunes. Apparently, iTunes only carries the latest 50 episodes, so we're now going to start seeing some of the early ones drop off. But you can still find them all on the WordPress page, and you can find them on archive. So panic not.
Yeah, and now we are on YouTube also. Well, I just should point out it's not iTunes' fault. It's WordPress blog's fault, and it's fine, I guess. So yeah, if you want to listen to some of our older episodes, do come up to our site. There's a way on mega.co.nz to download all the episodes if you like. So if you wanna just download all of them in a single place, there's a convenient way to do that. So yeah, I guess that's about it, right? Thank you for coming on, guys. You guys had to stay up at odd hours for this. I would get up at odd hours for this. Really appreciate that. So see you all next week, I guess. Bye.
Thanks,
Sounds
everyone.
good. See ya.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.